Hello, everyone. We got ourselves a fresh best of 3, so better than expected. And better even than that, because it includes a Zerg player. That's right. Solar is all of our hopes and dreams to not having nonstop TVP action. And maybe not the same people in the finals. That's a big maybe, though. That's a big maybe. Max Pax would very well win this. He could win against Hero. And we could have Clem Max Pax all over again. Similar top 6, I think, so far. Anyway, a couple of, not new faces, but maybe they don't play every single time. I don't know if Showtime's been playing. Maybe he has just been being knocked out. I mean, so Showtime is in the loser bracket. Beyond's in the loser bracket. Trigger is in the loser bracket. Spirit's in the loser bracket. Those are kind of the big guys, I guess, who could alternatively be in the top 6. But they don't seem to be as reliably as Clem, Cure, Hero, Max Pax, Solar, and then someone else, because I said top 6, but it's a weird bracket. Anyway, we are finally ready to go. We got predictions on the way. I think I'm all good. We got the ever-important cat cam. And let us begin this PVZ. So we're on a new map. It's called Pylon. Thank you. Praise easy map names. Praise the map makers. And it looks very interesting, at least from first glance on the mini-map. Top left, it is Max Pax. Bottom right, it is Solar. Solar being our really only representative of Zerg oftentimes. There are some other Zergs that sign up for the tournament, like Wayne, for instance, who... Oh my god, what was Wayne's names before? He had a bunch of names. Ratata and... another one. But anyway, it's been so long. He doesn't seem to get as far. Solar's the reliable Zerg to get to the top, I guess, 5 or 4, something like that. So, yeah, he's still kind of our best hope to not have non-stop TVP. Because, of course, even if other Terrans arrive and try and participate, they don't have TVT very often because Clem generally is a finalist, and he plays Protoss versus Terran. Seems to be a big problem right now in that matchup. It's completely flipped from where it was 6 months ago, where generally people agreed that Protoss had a tougher time against Terran. Now it's generally agreed to be quite the opposite, perhaps even too much so. Now, I have said, I've been on record on my talk show that I used to do, that I wouldn't mind a time where Protoss is actually a little overpowered. I think that, you know, they've kind of done their due diligence, being at least not represented in the finals and semifinals of bigger tournaments. So to have them finally usher in a new age might be fine. But the only problem with that is that generally throughout the last 15 years of StarCraft 2, people generally don't like when Protoss is the best race. It takes them a lot longer to complain about Terran being the best race or Zerg being the best race, or admitting that they're the best races, right? Protoss immediately jumped upon as soon as they start doing well, so that's the downside. And it doesn't help right now that all these weeklies do incorporate a lot of the same players. We have some of our players who just don't participate in online weeklies very much, or who don't necessarily give it their all, I suppose, in online weeklies. So hopefully when we do start getting those qualifiers for EWC, DreamHack Dallas coming up as well next month, we will have a bigger net of players to showcase and talk about some of the upset potential like we used to do in the regionals. But right now the Open Cups are kind of, well, they're a little stale, if we're being honest. So that's why we also tend to cheer for Solar as the representative Zerg here. This is the beginning of a PVZ, totally normal stuff happening. Stargate for our boy Max Pax, and Solar going for, looks like, actually pretty, totally normal speed. So let's take a look at the map as the Adept comes in. Maybe it gets a couple of drones. That would be important, but shouldn't happen. But the map does seem like a typical 3-base setup. We don't have a lot of maps that try and move away from that 3-base setup, just with the meta of StarCraft 2 being what it is. Should we have a map pool that doesn't have standard third bases? There's an argument for it, but generally most people do consider 3 bases to be kind of a gold standard. And then maybe the 4th could be a little more difficult, but then that directly impacts the Zerg. It is tough to balance fun with balance. But yeah, so the base setup does look rather typical, but then we have some of the innards of the map that do have some interesting features. We got like a double bridge going on in the middle. These rocks, not particularly noteworthy, but then there's a Rich Vespian geyser on the shared bases. They would be if we got that deep into the game anyway. We got corner bases. I don't see any gold on the map. Zelnagas, not particularly helpful by the looks of things for when it comes to the direct back and forth attacks. These are going to be more helpful if we do get to like a 5 base for 6 base scenarios by the looks of it, because I gotta imagine. Yeah, I don't think you actually pass by the Zelnaga vision if you just go straight across the map. I could be wrong. Have not seen it, so we'll see. Dave Testa, they get for the 24 months. Should have match Reno to help prize pool? I mean, they could, obviously, but that does, take a portion of money away. It is a convenient way to kind of gather crowdfunding. That's the best part about it, but it does take some money away, and then it requires, I guess, an X amount of additional effort. And, I don't know, maybe there's other reasons they haven't decided to do it, but whatever it is. When even taking a natural is challenging, like Metalopolis, right? Yeah. I mean, I really do wonder what modern StarCraft balance, units, design, and player knowledge would do with one of these older maps. Now, we had the Nightmare Pool, as everyone called it, because everyone hated it when we brought back nothing but old maps. But I don't know. I'd be totally down to have it again, honestly. I'd be down to force people to play on it more than just an off-season, because that was the time where we had like a legitimate off-season between BlizzCon and like Katowice, basically. And now we don't really have that, but anyway. So the map is otherwise typical. I think it is pretty glowing. I like the pylons. I like that same pylon. We do have Blink +1 on the way for Max Pack. It's going to move out. How many oracles did we create? 2 oracles. And so far, a flawless game from the Protoss. Solar losing little bits here and there, and now losing some of this creep spread, which initially doesn't seem that important. And it probably won't be, but you always got to be a little worried as a Zerg player as to what exactly your Protoss opponent is planning. For instance, Solar is not going to be able to check the timing of the additional 2 gases. Didn't see like total saturation, I think, on the base. I'm not sure about that. And, this could be a lot, I guess. This could be a real dedication. More gateways added far before the technology, for instance, so that suddenly what looks like a very manageable number of Stalkers turns unmanageable very quickly. It's not that, but Stalkers with Blink and Oracles to help them does mean that they just live for a very long time. At least they should. We are playing on NA. Ping could be an issue. Max Pack's losing one of his weakened Stalkers, and many of his Stalkers without shields is going to have to back away. Solar just in the nick of time getting to a decent number of Roaches. Because even though this wasn't really dedicated by Max Packs, we have seen games, actually just the last one I cast, which was 3 weeks ago actually, I was on vacation. We saw like a non-committed Stalker attack win the game easy peasy. So it can happen, it shouldn't. In this case, it won't. Solar has pushed back these Stalkers and now even starting to take some good trades, I want to say. 3 Stalkers have now gone down, 4 Stalkers make it, many more could if they stayed around and fought. So that's 5 Stalkers killed. That is some serious revenge, because Solar, up until that point, was just taking the damage, right? But, this isn't actually it for the Roaches. So Solar has typically, if not always, been going for some type of mid-game all-in. It could go a little bit earlier, it could go a bit later, but I'd still call everything that he does mostly mid-game, so up to 4 bases, but not a full saturation on 4 bases, I think that's mostly what he's been doing. Maybe there was a 3-hatch all-in somewhere, but basically it's Roaches, it's Hydra Ling, it's... I guess he has done a Ling all-in, maybe? But yeah, it's this. And so Max Pack should know this. He should see Roaches and say, okay, it's Roaches. What else is there to also find out? You could find out if they have a Baneling Nest. You could find out if they're on their way to Hive. And those would tell you, hey, they're not going to attack me. But if Max Pack got any scouting, he would kind of confirm. It looks like with a Ravager on the front lines, it's already kind of confirmation enough that they're going to be dedicating a lot to this attack. Unfortunately for Max Pack, he was a little out of position. Initially, the Roach number not that high, but still jumping on top of this 4th base prior to Max Pack's being prepared, able to cut a couple Stalkers, but the 4th base did hold on for a time, allowed those Storms to actually accumulate, and with Storms plus a decent number of Stalkers left over, still 19, now 22, 33 Roaches isn't actually going to push past that. They need some type of links around, force the blink to be used, and then ideally without any amount of shield batteries, which have been repowered. So yeah, this isn't going to work for Solar. He does have additional technology on the way, but it's still very mid-game oriented. We got Tunneling Claws. I mean, this could win, of course, but if MaxPax is wise to it, which it does seem like he is, there is a cannon in the natural already. He's building an additional one. And then it's not going to do catastrophic damage. Immortal now joining the fray. Oracle still with plenty of energy to help out. Shield batteries were depowered again on that 4th base, but I think the army is just good enough. Yeah, no, man, MaxPax is like, oh, definitely good enough. That blink forward was pretty spot on, actually. That is going to do the trick. Roaches in the main base were seen. They've been chased. There wasn't a lot of army for MaxPax initially to deflect it, but it was enough to stop this from being a tremendous amount of damage. I mean, it was hardly any, actually. 4 probes killed. You get one time where you might have the surprise with Tunneling Claws, because then it's a visual upgrade. The roaches will be seen. And that should really be able to get into at least 2 bases and kill, I want to say, at least 12 probes, actually, to really start to wonder if that's good enough. But we do have a lot of army being built to take care of the burrowed roaches, meaning that we didn't have reinforcements on the front line. That could be a problem. Storms are all gone. Archons were merged. Now they're all dead as well. Shield battery going to just be killed at this point. And the front line army of MaxPax looks really small. I know he has more army, though. There it is, finally coming forward. He was just reinforcing entirely in the main base. As he was, yeah, that was a decent amount of roaches that were trying to deal that economic damage. And then they did eventually, I think, go toe-to-toe with the Protoss army. But when they're burrowed, you also got to consider the regeneration. Like, it actually is so annoying sometimes because you'll have enough to deflect it, but not quickly, because the roaches would regen while they're burrowed. So that's usually a problem. It looks like MaxPax might have towed that line just good enough, however, to save his 4th base, which is very low. But he saves his main natural and 3rd. That's not been a problem. The burrowed roaches did not do a lot of damage there. And the 4th base does not get sniped. And now that the army's back on the front lines, triple immortal, Oracle's still helping out. Cannons and shield batteries to help out as well. I don't think Solar will break this. This is about the supply that makes it possible against Protoss, but oh my god. Oh, that was like half the army in a stasis trap. Yeah, that's not what you want. 40 to 50 army supply lead when you're talking about roaches versus +2 stalkers. That is, as I said, just barely enough to really give the Zerg a chance. Certainly if the Protoss is lacking those immortals, lacking a good stasis trap, lacking shield batteries and cannons, like there is a chance. But everything is really combined together here for MaxPax. Solar's in a lot of trouble. He has no second plan right now. Still only at 63 drones, +1 missile. He does get a great depower on a lot of gateways and a shield battery going after the immortal right now as well. But this is not enough. I mean, even if those roaches win temporarily, how many probes are they really going to kill? Not that many. And the distraction that almost caused the loss of a 4th base, that the previous attack, the previous harassment, isn't really happening now. MaxPax has really done a great job settling that momentary panic of not quite having enough on the front lines because you were distracted. I think it's over and gone now. The Nexus is quite low. Solar could try and just sack some units to try and get the kill there, but would that also be enough is a big question. Because then you would just have the inevitable counterattack of the Protoss army, which is actually getting to +3 at this point, and that would just be a better army. But we do have some of those frontline Archons going down. Not a lot of time to gain the storms again. I don't think we've seen a storm since the first engagement. Immortals having their shields popped and thus dying, actually, almost anyway. 3 of them still alive, regaining that shield eventually. And then the Oracle still helping out with the stasis trap, so this might be the opportunity to go after the Nexus. It is the opportunity. Not going to lose a whole lot for it, just the Corrosive Bile is used, really. And that means that Solar could possibly stop the counterattack that maybe MaxPax actually doesn't do. He's not desperate because he lost that 4th base, actually. Does it suck? Yeah, but he's actually double expanding. That's certainly a choice. He's not rolling in money right now, but 800 minerals going into a double expand, so that means that he's confident in the army that he's built up. And with +3 and the Immortals living and some still a good stalker number, I could see why. He also finally had some time to add in the recharge for the High Templar, so they do actually have Storm. That will help a whole lot. One Immortal does get taken down, but we actually were up to 5 at one point. Back down to 4, but very healthy Immortals. 5th base, well, this is the 4th now, I guess. Very low. one of those things where initially I was like, should he have actually let it finish? But I think you would. You should. It is concerning how low that got before he saved it. Okay, well, we'll see if that gets sniped. Because that means you can't react to an attack. You have to be prepared for the attack at the 4th base now. And I'm just not sure that's really possible. It's not like MaxPax has the entire map in his vision. So, for instance, he didn't realize that the entirety of the Zerg army was heading to the right side. He just didn't know it was on the left. Actually, nothing was on the left. So that Nexus is a goner. Solo didn't skip past it. So maybe, yeah, he should have canceled it. It was a hard call. But at least it was double expand. So a 4th base is back up and running. Still on 4 bases here. Solar still on a limited number of drones. Good Corrosive Bile taking out one more Archon. And the Storm count, I know, is somewhere. There it is. Oh, and he's going to try and go for a surround. Oh, he's going to try and go for a bit of a surround here. MaxPax, maybe a little low on the left side. That's where Solar's going to try to escape, but still some Storms hitting the heart of the army. Ravager's very, very low, very targetable. It's exactly what the blink was for. And we know that Solar eventually... it's going to have to disengage and then might run out of steam. It's really hard to call as far as MaxPax knowing that or not, but that's usually the deal when it comes to these type of Zerg attacks. Unfortunately, the Nexus is going to go down. Solar making something happen here. Not the distraction, just the temporary lack of vision and the, well, frankly, overreach, I think you could call it at this point. The overreach of double expanding from MaxPax might have allowed Solar back into this game, but once again, the counterattack is the big question. Is it just going to beat down Solar's army, which is now Ravagerless, by the way? Not a whole lot of reinforcements coming in, however. A couple of Zealots would be huge on the front line, but the Roach number is thinned out. For Immortals still here. More Archons reinforcing, and that probably will do it. There you have it. MaxPax countering as he lost his 4th/5th after he had just killed all of the Ravagers and almost the entire army. That was all Solar's reinforcements that were trying to hold. And that's so often how that game will happen. If the Protoss stabilizes around that 150 supply, even if they do take the economy hit, then the option to kind of all in themselves is there. And it's a very scary one because they usually get up to that +3 attack, and if their retention of units is good, then they're just better units than Roaches and Ravagers, if Solar had any, which it didn't. So it was a little more difficult. There was a little more question mark in that game than I think MaxPax would be happy with, as far as optimizing that game. He probably could have done a little more, but the job was done. Tayu, thank you very much for the 69 months. And yesterday was 420. Oh, if I'd streamed, you could have subbed 420.69. What have I done? What have I denied the world? ZG come to Cheeseadelphia. I do not have spending money. Gotta tell you. And I no longer live close to Cheeseadelphia. So, no. Unless they pay for my flight out there, I'm definitely not going. But if you guys are local to Philadelphia, around Philadelphia, then definitely go to Cheeseadelphia. No, I hate driving. Absolutely not. I would, especially if I had a goal, if I had to be somewhere in a certain amount of time, I would hate it. I don't like driving in general, and having to drive and not take like a leisurely approach where like I get like a camper as well and I like go see the national parks or something. No, absolutely not. No amount of podcasts and music would help me. We're on incorporeal this time, which is a fancy word, but a word I very much can pronounce, or close enough to it, I suppose. Which is the... Oh, wait a minute. Wait, so what is this? Hold on. I've never really seen the incorporeal... Maybe I can't say it. Hold on, we're going to learn. Corporeal. Case this is in the ladder map. Incorporeal, there we go. I'm not emphasizing the right things. Okay, and it is the one that has no material existence. Gotcha. I got it now. Incorporeal. Incorporeal. So the other one is corporeal. No one uses these words. Stop making me learn things. Oh! Ehoo! I thought the right base for a hatchery. MaxPack's forced to react to this, of course. Solar did not do this as a reaction to being blocked. His drone would not have made it over in time. This was actually his plan from the beginning. Not exactly sure why, but if at the end of the day he just thinks that he has to mess up MaxPack's because he's a little bit of the underdog, I would actually understand that. It's just a question of, is a proxy hatch, or a block hatch, I should say, is that actually something that messes up MaxPack's? It's rare, but it's definitely something all Protoss have practiced against at this point. Perhaps maybe the rush distance of this map is quite small, but that's not necessarily a good thing for the block hatch. Actually, yeah, it's not. I would say it's actually a bad thing for a block hatch because then the counter of the Adept and the Zealot is much faster. The only thing I can say that the block hatch does is that it forces the Protoss to respond more than the block hatch is mineral-wise, I guess. But then you do have to account for the drone not mining as it usually would and almost certainly dying as well. So I guess at the end of the day, I'm just not a fan of it anymore. You know, it was all fun and games when people were clearly confused as to what to do against either a proxy hatch or a block hatch, and you just saw the Protoss temporarily short circuit. But now that doesn't happen, so it's kind of like, well, it's different, I guess. But is it fun? I don't know. And the counter attack that we're seeing here is what I was kind of talking about. Would take advantage of a shorter map. The Zealot, almost certainly not going to add a lot here, but taking up the Queen's DPS, for instance, when they're one of the more reliable ways to shoot down the Adepts. The Adepts got quite aggressive. They got into the creep. They got into the mineral line. So yeah, of course, the Lings are able to touch them. But then if the Zealot had also joined in, that's when they can like sneak itself into a little mineral line here and be really quite annoying. 1 Adept survives, 4 drones were killed, and 6 Lings. So, of course, you have to make those Lings, which take away from the drones that you would usually be building at this point in time, only building those kind of like 2 or 4 Lings for scouting, and then maybe 6 to 8, actually, if it was double Adept harass. That is true, but it's just, this is a very early on difference that I just feel like nowadays affects the Zerg more than it affects the Protoss. Leaving the injured Adept back at home would often make sense. In this case, it is going to cause a little bit of a problem, but the warp-ins are available, so MaxPack does not worry. He's got an Oracle and 5 Adepts on the counter, and this is just... well, this might be game. It's just so much damage to take when Solar has already, frankly, done the damage to himself. I don't know. I don't know exactly what Solar was hoping would happen in this game, but losing all this and then having to respond to all this is... it's not exactly uncommon, is it? So this is why I'm just like, well, what was Solar's idea to have happen? I guess he was hoping just that the threat of his own run-by would force MaxPack to be more conservative with the counters and only use the Oracle, in which case, you know, that would be fine. But that's not what happened, is it? I mean, even the counterattack is stronger just like balance-wise right now because you get the recharge on the Oracle. So the Oracle no longer goes across the map and then helps for like 5 seconds. It helps for 25 seconds. That's a huge difference. I don't know, guys. I do not know. I do know one thing is that Solar's not doing okay. All right. What I don't know is exactly his plan, what he wanted to have happen, but I do know that he's not okay. At third base, already over halfway done for the Protoss, as Solar just now matches the worker count of his Protoss opponent. He was down by 10 for a while. Gonna lose a couple more drones too, as the Oracle is constant threat. MaxPack's certainly no longer affected by that opener. Like, this is back on the rails, doing everything he needs to do to get Blink +1. Solar might be going for his own +1 melee? Yeah, okay. So he will have potentially he'll have a chance, like, if MaxPack does the exact thing he's been doing against Solar, for the most part, which is to move out aggressively just prior to Blink to, you know, you have your Oracles to defend you. If there's enough Lings, it's a bit of a gamble though, but if you have enough Lings and you get this around and you just nip that attack in the bud, I mean, you could take away 4 to 8 Stalkers very cost efficiently with a Ling Surround. Now the Oracles are there with a Pulsar Beam to help make sure that doesn't happen, as well as their Stasis Trap, so it's a gamble for multiple reasons, but it's the only thing I can think of that might pull Solars back into this game, which is just to be scary enough at a moment that Max Pax lays off him. The Max Pack should also be quite aware that that is a potential power spike of his opponent, that his only chance would be to get him at least to get off his back, and so he might overproduce army now and make up for it later. I'm sure he's aware of it. And just, at that point, I guess just be very conservative. You know, plenty of Stasis Traps. Make sure one Oracle has enough energy for Pulsar Beam. Prepare a recall if necessary. Which I'm sure he's all thinking about. Adepts to get into the third base. Only killed 3 drones, though. It's not a super big deal, but this is just such an unideal game. Charge is on the way. Lickety split here for Max Pax, as Blink did finally finish. Stalkers mostly retained. 2 went down. Oh, 10 depths, too. 10 depths is not nothing. That is for sure. And one Oracle did finally die. But I'm still concerned for Solar's overall game plan here. +1 melee will finally finish. That's going to be ahead of the Stalker's +1 attack. But is the Ling number high enough? Again, they really need those surrounds. They really need to be able to surround, force the blink, and then continue chasing after the Stalkers to really get this done. And the Oracles are always going to be a threat to that. Stalkers on the right side reinforcing are a little awkward, forced to take refuge in the mineral line, which with the Oracles nearby is not a problem whatsoever. Stalkers are getting weakened, so they're in increasing danger to dying before Max Pax can blink out, especially with the ping. But Max Pax doesn't really have to leave at this point. Solar, recognizing that he might be losing the battle, the tug of war right there, goes for a run by, which is probably the better plan. It doesn't leave very much back at home. He has managed to get himself up to a lair with Hydras on the way, but we need that protection for the Hydras too. So whether that's Lings or Queens, either one, something needs to be on the front lines. And right now, Max Pax looking to kill those frontline units. The Queens are getting low. They're running out of transfuses. The hatchery's low too, so that could be targeted and then recalled. Hydra's coming out one at a time. Easy pickoffs right there. Ling run by did kill 8 probes. It also forced the Oracles back, which actually might be one of the better things about it. And maybe that means Solar can accumulate enough units. Max Pax not able to reinforce because of that run by. Maybe losing a little bit of ground on the forward position, but it's such a small battle. And when that happens, that means that the blink retention is so strong. Max Pax does have to respect the possibility of suddenly 10 Hydras, 20 Lings popping out. He could easily overstay his welcome if that was happening and you just can't know for sure that's not happening. You can be pretty sure you've done a good job suppressing the Zerg player from the start of the game, but you're never 100% sure. And I think Max Pax did choose a wise time to pull away, because this basically guarantees he'll defend what is going to be an all-in from Solar. No more drones on the way, no more technology. Max Pax just needs to hold. Already a good stasis trap taking away that front line. We got Storm done, officially, and that'll just murder all these Hydras. Oh, no. Oh, no. Zealot's a little overeager, gotta wait for the storms to weaken them, but not even worth completing the battle. Max Pax, a very clean game, too. Solar wanted to mess him up, I suppose, and it just messed him up so much worse. Yeah, right, Sad Templar. A block natural. That's my bread and butter. Yeah, I know XX Romeo. Yeah, SX Romeo. Which is why I was like, I'm familiar with the word, but I didn't remember which one meant that they were like ghostly and which one meant that they weren't ghostly. I forgot which was which. I also have never had to pronounce it. I've never cast Warcraft, so I've used Spirit Walkers and I've made them do the thing, but I've never had to talk about it. Hope Max Pax plays in EWC. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility. I would still say it's more unlikely. But every event in the last 2 years, Max Packs has gotten just that much closer to actually going, and I think in a legitimate way. I've talked about this before, but, you know, whatever's happening in his personal life and his home life, he is getting older. As you get older, you have more independence. If he really does want to attend offline, he wants to break through any anxiety issues that he has, or he wants to break out of any, you know, control that your parents have over you, you know, socially, emotionally, whatever it is, then it's going to eventually happen. He would have to want to do all those things, of course, which I think he does. I think he was actually very close to going to last year's EWC before finally saying no. StarCraft 2 will die when he finds his first land. The prophecy. This means that Hero versus Max Packs will be happening, so we're just going to chill out on the North American server. Clem did beat Cure 2-0 as Protoss. And Solar, I think, goes down to face Spirit, by the looks of things. And a best of one, I don't mind Spirit's chances at all. That could be it for our Zerg representation. Because Wayne has already been defeated as well.
Resubscription received. Apparently you are doing something
Seal
right,
Pup,
Captain.
thank you for the 63 months. Hot damn. I hope he shows up in like a masked singer mask, you know? Kalaris wants him to show up as a, you know, WWE wrestler. If he dresses up as a Dark Templar, he's invisible, which you could say he's been a Dark Templar all the time. Might be a good event to see most of the pro players. That's probably your best bet. Aside from a home story cup, DreamHack Dallas. Because let's be real, not everyone. Not a lot of people are wanting to go visit Saudi Arabia for EWC. Which is their ultimate goal, is to get more people visiting them. But it is a tough sell for many reasons. And you could even argue most of it's not even the moral reason, actually. But going to basically, you know, what's that one city called? Shit. Well, anyway, going to some, you know, town in Texas, but even hotter for your international experience is just, it's a tough sell. A lot of, well, I'm not going to say a lot of, but people who are LGBTQ plus have actually gone to EWC or are willing to, actually. But that, obviously, if you're uncomfortable, then that makes total sense. And I'm not saying don't worry about it, but there's a lot of trust in them protecting the visitors, the tourists. Which has, I think, mostly been upheld. There was a beheading, but it was a guy who I think lived there and then like murdered his wife's lover or something like that. I don't know. I was talking to someone before we went to the edge of the world, and they were talking about how they like thought about visiting some of the major cities, and then they heard that this happened like last year, and they're like, oh, never mind. Yeah, I tell you, I think you're right. It's a very difficult sell, no matter what reason. It's like I can't tell you a reason why to go because you don't even really get any type of culture, the good or the bad. All the places you would visit as far as history goes are pretty far away too. And the Dragon Ball Z amusement park isn't built yet, so like, what's the reason? I didn't want to go try local food. Well, my experience getting brought around by the locals, well, they weren't local to Saudi Arabia, but they were Egyptian. They wanted to go like show us like what the real city was like, which I appreciated. So they took us to, you know, a place that a lot of locals would go to, and it wasn't completely different. It was like a kitchen. And I mean, they were very excited for us to try their food. And some of us had never tried some of the food. But I had tried almost everything they gave me, I think. Pretty much everything they gave me. Because it's very, very much like Lebanese food, Mediterranean. What else? I don't know, that's what I'm more familiar with anyway, so I can say that it was very much like that. Oh, Barry, you just don't go outside. The only time you go outside is between the hotel door where you're standing behind it. Obviously, you don't wait outside, and the car that just drove up. I guess we did walk to the mall once. And it was in the evening, so it was better. Which I was glad, not because where we went was amazing. We went to like the Cheesecake Factory or something. Anyway, but because on the way back I found a cat, so that was pretty good. I enjoyed that part. Wonder if it's better during winter. I do wonder how. I mean, well, the nights must be freezing, right? It's literally a desert. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong about that. So the nights must be freezing, but I don't know if that really changes the day all that much. But you know, the fact that EWC is always hosted in the middle of summer is just like a why? I mean, if you are thinking about getting tourists equals summer vacation, okay, I guess, but hello, I'm doing all right. My lungs aren't at full capacity yet. I played like a little game of tag basically with my nephew yesterday. And after like 6 runs, you know, short runs, I was hacking up a storm. It doesn't help I haven't been running either, so it's like a combination of being out of shape and being sick. I really need to work out again. I feel the problems arising from not doing anything physical. My back, my hips. All the old person things. My sciatica. These are all legitimate problems that I've already had when I was younger even. So it might sound like I'm just making fun of what old people say, but these are legitimately what I work against. All right, Pylon once again. Bottom right, we do have Max Packs. Top left, this time it is Hero, so a good old-fashioned PvP. Last time these guys faced against each other was the finals, I believe, where they had a back-to-back best of 3, and it was not super amazing. Some of the games were fine. Some of the games were not fine. Phoenix vs. Phoenix remains to be pretty boring. I would love to make it exciting and fake hype for you guys, and I do try to point out some of the more intricate details of why you know, X or Y thing is important in Phoenix vs. Phoenix, but let's be honest with ourselves. It's not the most fun. But these guys can have fun PvPs. It's kind of moved away from that likelihood because Hero has moved away from trying to all in. So MaxPax is what MaxPax does. We always expect that he's the receiver. You know, like he sits there and he reacts to things. So he's not one to usually drive some type of fun, engaging narrative. He's the one that's defending it. And then everyone else has to do it. And Hero usually was a really reliable guy to always all in or do something extremely tricky that got her brains working. And that has kind of come and gone. So even though MaxPax was, theoretically directly nerfed by some of these, actual game nerfs, maybe some map changes as well, it hasn't really stopped him from being the guy who defends. And you have two choices as the other guy. You either attack him, all in him, which does not work most of the time, or you do the exact same thing that he does and then play out kind of a normal PvP. And that's where most Protosses have gone to. And normal PvP doesn't have to be bad, of course. It does mean the first 6 minutes are maybe not full of tension. Then if we do get into like stalker battles, I mean, if we ever do see a disruptor again in this matchup, that's still very fun, I think. I think any movement's good. You guys are suggesting some good ideas for like any movement is good, right? I still go on walks all the time, especially as the weather's gotten nicer. Although, did you guys know that in Colorado we got a snowstorm 3 days ago? April 18th or something. I was so disappointed. I hate the cold. And I love going on walks when it's warm and sunny. I was so disappointed. Anyways, I go on walks, but it's just, you really gotta, do actual exercises to help out in some of the problems that I have. Yeah. The good news is, as a person in chat brings up, is that this doesn't, I'm building this narrative where MaxPax is the defender, because that is true. He's not always the winner. All right, people don't all in him as much because it did stop working, but it's not that they just give up on him entirely. They just figured the better chance of winning is to play his game to a certain extent. So Hero actually is, able to defeat MaxPax. Same chance between both of them. But we do have Phoenix versus Phoenix, and this is where I do lean towards MaxPax. Certainly the last time these two, last time I saw them play Phoenix versus Phoenix, MaxPax did win. One of the changes so far in this game, the differences is we're going from most of the same thing. Nexus was faster for Hero, so maybe MaxPax was delayed a little bit longer by the probe block. Might have been the reason for that. Maybe that's a half a probe ahead. Not the biggest of differences. The other difference is that the Stargate from MaxPax is faster. His second Stargate is faster, but whatever minuscule thing happened to delay that Nexus also might have delayed his first Phoenix, as he is behind by about half a Phoenix, I guess. He might catch up because his second Stargate was so much faster. One thing I did note the last time these two played Phoenix vs. Phoenix was that MaxPax seemed to have a slightly better build. He cut the right corners. One thing that was incredibly obvious, even to me, not a super good Protoss player, was that Hero got like an unnecessary fourth gas and that 75 minerals, because I don't even think he ended up saturating it immediately because he shouldn't have. But even that extra mineral dump would directly harm him in the game. So that's what I mean by just like slightly better builds. It looks like Hero recognized that or corrected that, or whatever happened last time isn't happening again here. So build-wise, almost identical. MaxPax looks like he got supply blocked, but I would actually say this is superior because he didn't get supply blocked. Wait, what is happening? Oh, that's happening. I'm so dumb. I was like, why is the supply going down? What's happening here? Because, of course, he's fighting. It looks like he did lose 2 Phoenix, but also Hero lost 2 Phoenix. So they are dead even. 7 Phoenix to 7 Phoenix. This is often it comes down to who flowers better, which almost sounds like an innuendo, but it depends on who bulks up their Phoenix better and then gets a full shot of all their Phoenix on 1 Phoenix of their opponent. In this case, Hero actually won it. I guess. They're both still at 8 Phoenix. Zealot randomly appears. Looks like both of them did have to make a Zealot because they did have to prepare for a pylon block, and both of them already used it, but it looks like Hero kind of kept his a little later. Oh, I do like this. Something a little more interesting. We got hidden Nexus. Yeah. It seems so not hidden, because like if it was really hidden, it'd be in the corner. This is ideally going for the Rich Vespian Geyser, you gotta imagine, and that's fine. It also does give you the Zelnaga, which could tell you whether or not they are directing any scout towards the Nexus. In the case of Phoenix vs. Phoenix, this is already a good thing anyway for Hero, because as soon as the probe plants the Nexus, you're Gucci. Phoenix can't lift buildings, no matter if you make 20 or 30. So, it was kind of hidden. There's a chance Max Pax took even longer to figure out this was happening, but at the end of the day, there's not much that Max Pax could have done about it. He's not going to produce from his single regular gateway to try and kill this Nexus. What it can tell him is his intentions of his opponent, right? So the intention of his opponent is to continue macroing, which there wasn't really many other options. Who's it more awkward for? It looks like it might have been more awkward for Hero. He kind of had one reinforcing Phoenix that was caught, but maybe the weakened Phoenix from the earlier battle favors Hero. Hero now ahead by 1, loses another, but he's got 3 Phoenix popping out now. Both of them got up to a triple Stargate. Ah, that is a big difference. Max Pax got to a Fleet Beacon, but 2 things. Hero's going to have way more Phoenix up until... He's going to have way more Phoenix in general, right? Although he's losing them on the transition. So this is the downside of taking this base. You always got to be careful. The game could just end with Phoenix vs. Phoenix. Okay. So the downside is that Hero's going to have way more Phoenix, theoretically, if he stops losing them. And you're not going to have any Impulse Crystals for another 20 seconds, although he is doing a good job chronoing it. The other downside is that even though you have any Impulse Crystals, if the non-range Phoenix get into range, they stay in range. So you have to be really, really on point with your own micro, constantly scouting where your opponent is to ensure that you can actually use that extra range. Which Max Pax should be doing, but everyone makes mistakes. Hero is now in a lot of trouble, by the way. Because we assume Max Pax is going to control his Phoenix correctly, Hero is missing extra range on his Phoenix. If he does not get into range, he will never get into range. Exactly, case in point. A couple Phoenix on the front are in range, and actually Max Pax runs out of room, but the Phoenix count had never gotten extremely imbalanced. Hero kept losing his Phoenix on the reinforcements, so what probably should have been a time where he was up by 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, I don't know. He actually was almost similar, and then I think he did lose 1 or 2 more. I can check it in a second, but we also might be witnessing the end of the game. So it's hard to say. Not a lot of Phoenix on the front lines. Obviously, Max Pax having a little bit later of the defender's advantage. The reinforcement, sorry, so Hero does have a little bit of that, but with him taking this middle base, that's another thing he's kind of given away. Yeah, Rich Vespian gas, yeah. But reinforcements becoming awkward casualties to the base taken. The lack of defender's advantage for when your Phoenix battle does go poorly seems to be too big of a problem right now. By the way, Hero's still not going for a Fleet Beacon. He's doing 2 interesting things. He's taken all these bases you're not supposed to take, but he's also not going for a Fleet Beacon at all. He's building 2 more Stargates. This is very interesting. And I think it could have a lot of potential if he stopped losing Phoenix. But that... that's kind of the problem. 4 bases, by the way, from Max Pax, moving on to 5. So it's not like Hero got ahead on the economy at any point. Both of them now ransacking each other's mineral lines. Hero did lose more. This does seem like a game over moment. I think Max Pax can... I think at this point you can recognize that you're definitely going to win the Phoenix War. No more just inherently, trying to figure out if you have more or less Phoenix. That's pretty obvious right there. Even though Hero now has 5 Stargates, so he's producing quite quickly. That's just an obvious win for Max Pax. Yeah, Hero's attempts to mix things up in this very specific matchup, Phoenix PvP, it didn't work. No. I kind of blame this Nexus, honestly. I mean, I don't want to entirely blame it, because then maybe Max Pack's just really good with Phoenix. He can micro them very well, but I think his instinct on where to have them and where to move them is also better than most other Protosses. So maybe Hero dies regardless. But the fact that when he had that moment where it was the more Phoenix versus more range, and he never got to take advantage of that because he just kept losing Phoenix, I mean, that took away, I think, most of the win out of the sales. I don't know how this game would look if that hadn't have happened. Is there a point where Max Specs has range, but he's down by 10 Phoenix? Maybe. And then there is definitely a chance that Hero could win with that, as long as he kind of gets a surprise attack on Max Specs. I don't know. It's always nice to see a little change up, little difference, but did not work for Hero. Casper captures the rich Vespian gas, extracts with 2 probes instead of 3. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, why are they even called Phoenix? There might have been some original plan with the Phoenix unit to have them revive, right? Although, I mean, the history of naming things in StarCraft isn't exactly... what's the word? Not stable, not... I mean, it just... There's a lot of names that are just like, well, that didn't really make any sense. CVZ and TVT never really devolve in a mono battle. I would agree. I mean, you still have Roaches versus Roaches, but because the Ravager was introduced, at least it's one additional unit. It looks like BattleNet might actually be bugging right now. We got some players complaining about not being able to make maps. That's unfortunate. Phoenix invented them and they fucked up the original name. Yeah, that's it. Because I was thinking like the Scout, right? The Scout in Brood War is this really insanely expensive unit. With its lack of anything impressive. It's really stupidly expensive. And it definitely isn't what you would think a Scout would be. You think Scout, you think cheap, disposable. Most of the time, right? And the Scout's like, lol, no. If you build me, you'll instantly regret it. The Infestor still infests. The Viper... You can kind of say is like a Viper attack when it abducts, I guess. You could argue that. What are the units that make sense for their name? Yeah, almost. Apparently all the maps are just not working. Maybe specifically on North America, but then that would mean we'd have to give someone a really big advantage. If we have to move off North America. Yeah, the Raven doesn't really do anything a Raven would do, to be fair, but I think that was more in its design. And maybe you could argue the Phoenix kind of looks like a Phoenix, like its wings, I guess. Hello. Phoenix is... Oh, maybe Mike's right. Then that would make some sense. If it is one of those, like, the Dragoon is a Stalker that died, or wait, no, the Stalker is a Dragoon that died? Oh, I forget which one. I forget which one's which. But there's, like, units in Protoss that are, like, basically died, and then they were put into a bunch of mech. So maybe the Phoenix is that. I don't remember that being its lore. Dragoon is Zealot that died, thank you. Well, the Stalker is a Dark Templar that died, I think. Is that what it is? Defiler defiles. I'd say that's true. Arbiter arbits. What is the real definition of an arbiter here? So if we can't make maps on North America, the two choices are hope we can eventually, or go to a different server. Rock, paper, scissors league, Yen says. Dead Marines don't become ghosts. Well, ghosts are named that because they're not supposed to ever be seen. I mean, which is clearly not what happens when you play StarCraft. But I think their lore is that they're almost, they're like a myth. They're so good at cloaking and they're so good at covert missions that people don't even believe they exist. Like a ghost. So I think that's fair. Looks like Indy was at least able to make one map. We're still delayed on the other series, though. Oh. Max Pax is in a game. So I think they did eventually load something. So the mods were messing some of it up at least. People were also disconnecting from BattleNet, so it definitely was a BattleNet issue. But we were able to get in the ley lines without any mods. Am I talking about as StarCraft 1? A little. We were talking about the names of units. Jeff Bezos, thank you for the 100 bitty boos. ZG ... That makes me nervous. Season 3 Wheel of Time is amazing. I have complaints. It is better than the previous seasons. And Rodian was really, really good. But I do have complaints. I'll see if I have any time to talk about him. In the bottom left, it is Max Pax. In the top right, it is Hero. Max Pax winning that Phoenix vs. Phoenix game. Hero tried to change things up. You know, kind of a hidden sort of base scenario, Rich Vespian Geyser. Surplus of Phoenix versus range Phoenix. Didn't work. Didn't work. So I don't think we'll see Phoenix vs. Phoenix again. Which is unfortunate, because you really do end up playing more of Max Pax's game. There's playing the same game as him, which is what people have to do now, and then there's playing his game, you know what I mean? And by playing his game, I mean you're the one being led by the nose. If you're the one that kind of has to go, okay, I can't do that, I have to try something else, that is just little tiny half-second thoughts that do affect this high level of gameplay, where Max Pax then goes, oh, you're not doing anything to me, you're playing some pretty normal stuff, but you're kind of second-guessing yourself. Well, I'm not second-guessing myself. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And that, it just doesn't feel like a very fair game when you're forced to do that. It's part of the struggle of being a pro gamer, though, because there's plenty of times where whether it's because some opponent is just that freaking good at a matchup, or it's because they seem to have some uncanny ability to always beat you, you are tasked with trying to overcome that, you know, kind of like mental problem, I suppose. And so Hero's been there a lot, but it is tough. It does kind of suck. He is going for 2 gates. Oh, sorry. Oh! I saw that later gas, and I was wondering what was going on, but yeah, that doesn't make any sense. No, it's later because he went for a Nexus. Alright, so Max Pax, he immediately goes up to the main, because he's like, what are you doing? He sees Cybernex Core possibly. I don't know exactly when his probe got in. But he would have seen it eventually, right? Be put down. But basically, as soon as he saw that it wasn't a second gateway, he would probably be like, "Oh, okay, you're doing the same thing that I'm doing." But then he goes in to double check maybe something else, like gas timings or something, probe count, whatever it is. And just that little extra, when Hero was actually going for a Nexus this fast, has really screwed up MaxPax, actually. You know, if there is a chance for him to block this Nexus, of course he's going to take it as soon as he possibly can. But it was taken so fast. Perhaps there is, you know, a lack of chrono-produced probes, right? That just made it so you accumulated those minerals and then you got it before they could check again. Is such a big difference. And Hero has literally an entire Nexus ahead of his opponent. What he doesn't have is technology, so MaxPax just kind of had to accept the hand he was dealt. Which does mean that, you know, that initial analysis of what would happen here is kind of flipped, actually. Hero's the one that kind of like, gotcha. And MaxPax is now the one that says, okay, what can I do to make up for this? So it's not the aggressive way of changing things up, it's the macro way, but it's still good. And then Hero does go into a Stargate, which MaxPax did see. He would have noticed the Phoenix popping out too. So the Oracle coming in here is just a gamble. Just like hoping the Phoenix ran away. And the Stalkers were out of position. With 3 units combined... Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh my god! I thought for sure that the Oracle was dead. Just because it had 3 units attacking it from the get-go. Thankfully, 1 Phoenix does not kill it particularly fast. I guess let's get its armor changed. Right? And fortunately, that was the only thing that could hit it back there. It's still not the best unit to have if your opponent is just going to have a Phoenix running around chasing after it. But better to have it than lose it. What really sucks about this is that MaxPax can't get more scouting on whether or not his opponent is actually dedicating to Phoenix. Hero went 1 Phoenix into 1 Oracle and then stopped using his Stargate. Which of course means he'd lose any Phoenix battle that was happening, but there's that time where MaxPax's additional Phoenix could get him probe kills, and that's great, but then they will fall off as we get more Blink Stalkers, and that's something that MaxPax will now recognize. He understands that's going on. It does mean that his 3 Phoenix will always be able to poke and prod because there won't be anything to really chase it down. So they'll do kind of the Oracle's job, I guess, of scouting. And then the Oracle can build a bunch of stasis traps back at home. But their time to dominate the map is limited. Not the first time we've seen a matchup like this. It's a little different thanks to that much faster Nexus, thanks to the kind of almost trick Stargate, kind of, but also it just deflects that Oracle really easily. But we have definitely seen Blink against Phoenix. And if the Blink player can get a 3rd Nexus before the probe is killed, so it's not delayed over and over and over again. Okay, there you go. Then you can actually ensure that that 3rd Nexus is alive, right? Because again, no Phoenix can lift buildings. So you just get to... Okay, that was confusing interaction for a second. You just get to have that 3rd Nexus building. What you do have to worry about is some type of 2-base attack from the Phoenix player. They build Phoenix Immortal, any amount of gateway units they can muster. They attack you when you're trying to be greedy. It can hurt, but I wouldn't really call this greedy from Hero. He did not get the fastest 3rd Nexus he could have. He actually went to Templar Archives first. He also went Charge first. So I've been talking about Blink Stalkers. That's actually not what this is at all. And I actually really like this. I think Hero could have played Blink Stalkers totally fine. And then played the kind of defensive game until he has enough to break out of the Phoenix map control. And then you use that Blink map pressure to hold off any attempted push from any of these high-powered units, and then maybe delay their 3rd Nexus. It's a dance. Instead, we're getting less of a dance and more of a punch to the face. So they both are going to have kind of punchy armies, but Heroes is a better punchy army. Because MaxPax has Phoenix that are becoming increasingly useless in fights. And his high-value Immortals are pretty easily targetable. There's not a lot protecting them right now. So it's not a big fight on either side. Hero, though, you know, if he added in just a handful more charge lots... Excuse me, Jesus. I think it would be so much better. This is gonna be good enough for Max Packs to deflect. The Phoenix helping out, taking out some of Hero's units. They cannot lift the Archons. And so the Archons stay around indefinitely, I suppose. The Immortals trying to whittle away at them, but it is going to be the DTs that actually force Hero to back away. Well, he can't back away immediately unless they give the DTs time to go into his base, but that's already too late. The DTs have entered. We got a pylon on the other side of the map, and that robo is not done. Cannons are not being prepared fast enough, and Hero's attack stopped in its tracks thanks to the stasis trap. Hero thought he could just play around that third nexus. There wasn't a lot of chasing that either army could really do, so as long as he was careful about the fight, he could stick around the nexus and continue trying to maybe even snipe it eventually, right? But once the DTs came in, that ruined all of Hero's game plans. Max Pack sneaking in the Dark Shrine took away some of those resources from the frontline defense if he really needed it. But fortunately, what he had held until the DTs were warped in both defensively and offensively. That's the real kicker here. If it was just defensive DTs, Hero does not take this much damage on the economy. But he lost 15 probes, and also all this lost mining time, right? And he does have to back away eventually from the fight, but he just doesn't have as many repercussions back at home. Instead, he loses the fight and he loses the economy, and now he's going to lose the game. Max Pack's it's too clever. The typing of the dead. I'm a fast typer. I'd be very good at it. Yeah, Hero can't recover from this. He's got nothing going for him. I think it was a solid idea is what he was doing, but, you know, a lack of reinforcing pylon and a lack of War Prism already made his attack on the third less likely to, you know, straight up win. And then, obviously, he wouldn't have a robo, so DTs would ruin his day. GG's. Hero, unfortunately, loses 0-2. We'll go down to the lower bracket, where he faces best of ones. And we do have Max Packs moving on to face... Any guesses? Any guesses? Any guesses? Yeah, it's Clem. Who'd have thunk it? Gotta correct people's manners, I guess, in YouTube. 1% on Max Packs. Okay, Twitch chat. All right, so we got a guy in my YouTube chat, so you guys can't see it, but we got a guy in my YouTube chat. He comes in, then he says, "This game looks like Toy Story." And I said, "If you're gonna come in and talk smack, why?" And he says, "I'm not. I just think StarCraft 1 is way better. This looks crazy." And I say, saying it looks like Toy Story and laughing is smack. Yes or no? I mean, I'm not saying it's egregious. I'm not saying that he, you know, said my mother should die. But it is smack. And it is riling up the StarCraft 1 versus StarCraft 2 competition. Which, you know, if you're going to go to a StarCraft 2 channel, why? Well, I mean, StarCraft 2 is on this, you know, the stream, right? What does he mean, Toy Story? He means, like, I mean, a pretty common complaint from Brood War players for StarCraft 2 is that it looked too cartoony. So I've definitely heard it before. And it is cartoonier. I don't think you can deny that than Brood War was. But it's just like, this is... It feels like it happens every time in YouTube chat. Actually, every time I stream StarCraft 2. This has happened the last couple of weeks that I've done the Mondays. I don't know what it is, but there's always one person that comes into my YouTube chat and just starts talking about StarCraft 1. In direct comparison, if not, you know, disparaging StarCraft 2, because that's StarCraft 1 fans' natural state of being, I think. It's not the worst thing in the world. I'm always like wondering why. What do you think about Revive StarCraft 2 Tasteless announced? That is a good question and potentially controversial. Yeah. You're good, Spirit. You're good. But I feel like I have to correct people when they're like, well, this, you know, the evaluation of whether it's negative or not, you know, I feel like that's when you do need to go to a collective group of people and kind of get that judgment call. Because maybe you were right. Maybe everyone in my chat was like, no, that wasn't that, like, why are you doing this? And then I would be like, you're right. But I think I generally agree that it's kind of smack. It's just not the worst thing ever. Oh yeah, also Toy Story is really good. I'm going to play my in-between series ad, and then I'll talk about Revival StarCraft 2. I'm not going to ban them. But I just, you know, I do feel the need to just be like, well, no, that was, you know, it's kind of disparaging. I don't know if we're still having the lobby problems. Hopefully the ads are over now. I don't have a metronome in my brain. So yeah, I'm talking about Revival StarCraft 2. It is a little controversial because of the split of money. Now, when they first announced it, I was totally on board. You know, and I still am, in general, on board with the idea. But when they first announced it, I didn't look into the money. I didn't look into the split. So, you know, I look through the Reddit thread and I see someone who I think is just being kind of annoying because they're like, what's the split? Doesn't make any sense. Why are you guys getting money? And I kind of rolled my eyes initially because I'm like, oh, they don't realize how expensive it is to produce these events. But then I was forced to take back my downvote because they then elaborated to someone else, I think, the actual split. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay, no, that is actually... It's worth criticism, is what I can say about that. You know, when a tournament that is crowdfunded gives, what is it, like 10% of its money to the prize pool, to the players, it is worth criticism. All right? Like, and the good news is that criticism doesn't mean everything's canceled forever. You should have never done this. I know everyone hates you. But it does mean that some people will be not likely to support some type of endeavor that does that. And there'll be plenty of people that do. And the good news is it's your money and you can put it wherever the hell you want. But the math on it is quite startling. I can try. Someone else did the math. I'm not even going to try. So I'm going to look it up. $11,000 a month gives out $10,000 of prize money in a year. $11,000 a month, $120,000 a year, gives out a prize of $10,000 in total. So that's where I was like, oh no, that is actually a tremendous difference and worthy of note. You at least note it before, because I think a lot of people would just see it and they'd be like, yep, money to the people that I trust and the people that I like, and more money to StarCraft. Absolutely 100%. And like me, they might even initially not even like look at the actual prize breakdown. But if they do, if they're educated and then, you know, they go, oh, okay, well, maybe my money actually should go more to like, I want to support the players more than I want a good production. I'm going to give it to Pigsty. I think that's just totally fine. And I think it should be something that is talked about. It's not like it's hidden under their... It's not like they hid it, all right? They've been very upfront about their money, so this is not on them at all. But I do think there is like a lot of people initially who just were like, yeah! And without actually reading exactly what it is. You know, like many people think that it's going to be an offline finals. Many people think that it's actually going to be offline the entire time. It's not. People who think there's going to be an offline finals only if they make it to a certain Patreon tier. So what you're giving a lot of money to is the casters casting in a official broadcast like studio. And some people are very happy with that, and other people, I think, are realizing that they would not want to support that specifically. How is the split in other events? Other crowdfunded events, you mean, right? Because if they had sponsors and stuff, and they also broke down the money with the sponsors, I don't think you could really have the same criticism. I mean, you might still have the same criticism. You might still be like, oh, I wish more would go to the players. Okay, fine. But that would be on them at that point. But we're talking about specifically crowd-funded tournaments for StarCraft 2. A split would often be highly favorable to the player pool. A lot of crowdfunding efforts in StarCraft come from, I'm not going to say passion, because it's not like the guys in Korea don't have passion, but it does come from a place of, I know I'm not going to make a lot of money. I am not trying to make money here. I am hoping that by doing this over and over again, people will give me money because they support my endeavors. But I know that this one thing that I'm crowdfunding for will not make me money. That is almost all StarCraft 2 stuff. So I would go as far as to say that most of it would be something like at least 50-50, if not more like 80-20, 80 being the player prize pool. So it is extremely different what Revival StarCraft 2 is trying to do. We'll talk more about that after I introduce the players. It is a best of 3 of the winners finals. In the top left of Persephone, another one I can pronounce. We do have Max Pax, and in the bottom left it is Clem. And it is a U-shaped map, I guess. Apollo looked at the camera. I think he was listening to me. Yeah, to talk more about kind of the situation. So first of all, normal looking stuff right now. It is going to be a factory expand from Clem. I'll try and pay attention to whether it's really bigger cheese or not. I'm guessing it won't be, though. And Max Pax is going Cyberknife Cobra for Nexus. But there definitely is a certain amount of general addition to a broadcast that comes with having commentators in studio. Like, I definitely believe that. All right? Did I believe that it was worth the amount of money that they spent on us to take us to Stockholm during those COVID years 3 times? To have us all in studio? I don't know about that one. I really don't. Okay? When you think about the actual money required to produce offline. But then there was other factors. Like, we weren't the only ones benefiting from being offline but being paid for that. There is all the people who usually work in a broadcast who have to be physically in place to get paid. So, there's that. But, you know, there definitely is something about casters being together. But is it that much of a difference? I don't know. I don't know what money amount I would put on it, honestly. Especially considering the other goals of it. So there's like Home Story Cup or the Safe House that I did, where the whole thing is that the casters are going to be really dumb with each other. We're going to drink, We're gonna do stupid stuff. We're gonna have to be like in physical proximity to do some of the stupid stuff, like pouring water bucket over my head. Our physicalness being on camera is important to an event like that or Home Story Cup. But if you're just gonna be like button up, suit and tie, then what you're getting is that chemistry addition from the casters, but you're not getting much more from having an official broadcast with that. So that also would change the money that I would put on it. Yeah, you know, but I mean, I do like the idea of being together. It just, an official studio is very expensive, and I don't know how much having that available for what would be online matches continuously. I mean, I guess the best way to put it is I would not have made the money divvy up that way, personally. I would have said no to the broadcast studio, and I would have suggested instead to do it at someone's house. Because they do live within, 45 minutes of each other. Maybe an hour, I guess. But that's just me, all right? And their goal is different than what my goal would be, so. Hopefully you understand why it's a bit controversial then when I started off this discussion. All right, so we got to the builds now more fleshed out. Clem did go for Reaper Hellion opener, was denied access into the natural. Main is a Widow Mine drop. This is something that MaxPax was totally anticipating. And does not screw up. Does not screw up. Does not screw up. He's going to lose a Stalker because Blink wasn't done, but he gets the Medivac, so I'd say that is worth it. And this Widow Mine is a goner as well. Do they request feedback from you casters? No. It's their thing. Like, they were talking to each other about it. This has, nothing to do with the rest of the commentators. I mean, maybe if you really wanted to make it dramatic, you could have some weird argument where one of us is, like, petty enough to be like, well, because you take the money, we don't get the money. But that just gets no one anywhere fast. One stalker does go down. 2 SCVs go down in turn. Looks like a stalker is in trouble on the defense as well. The 3 Reapers and a Hellion. Still able to take on 1, maybe 2 stalkers out that shield battery there. So it's worth considering, meaning that MaxPax doesn't actually get to focus entirely on the offensive. He is 3-gating, so the Nexus is on the way. This is not all in, but he clearly wanted to find some damage. Clem took this very seriously. He built that second bunker. Not strictly necessary, I suppose, but definitely the safer path forward. And then he is going up to at least 3 tanks. Stim is on the way. Add-on should be on the way soon for the starport and barracks. A couple more probes are going down on the rally to the 3rd Nexus. That's a nice find by units that would otherwise not contribute past the 430 mark. Once they've done some type of distraction for the Widow Mine or vice versa, that's usually it for the Reaper Hellion. So I guess 5-minute mark, actually. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. As far as the openers go, it actually kind of feels like Clem got the advantage here. Hold on. And no, I mean, maybe if he had saved the Medivac with the 2 Widow Mines, that would have put him in a better position, but his Widow Mines... Actually, they didn't even get, like, 2 probes, right? They only got 1. So, yeah, maybe not. Maybe it is just still a net loss for the Terran, but it does feel like it was not as perfect for MaxPax as it usually would be. He would lose maybe 1 or 2 stalkers on the front line, sure, but he wouldn't usually have to lose any probes behind that. Yeah, still a net loss for the Terran. Not game-breaking, of course, but the way that TVP is fleshed out here, and I talked about this last time, but close my eyes, cast from there, and I probably could do it, is that the Terran gets their move out, gets their 4 Medivac army time, is what I'm going to call it, before they then have to retreat and be scared of the Protoss. So they can have a little time to do a direct push. They can have time to do a double drop. They can have time to do a push and a drop. Whatever, right? But once the 2 Colossus are out, the Terran has to start worrying about if they did enough damage or not to stay on the front line. And if they didn't, and they can't, they are forced to retreat and kind of turtle up on 3 bases, in which case the Protoss, in this case Max Pax, uses the Warp Prism for harassment, sets up the Zealot run-bys for harassment, bullies the Terran army with the Colossus, drains the energy of the Medivacs, eventually catches the tanks out of position so Zealots can take care of it, and then it's just a seemingly losing battle every time. Clem is our first Terran, I guess you could call him. He's our best. He's the guy you would first look at to see what he's doing against something problematic, and he seems to be struggling as much as, if not more, than many other Terrans in this matchup. So, it's tough. Looks like Clem is trying to get around, also using what it looks to be acceleration zones to get there even faster. This is Max Pax's 4th base. Did take him quite a time to get over here. Not quite realizing what Clem was up to until about halfway through the map. But he does have his army over here. One Colossus, though, very, very low. Immortal now without the shield, and Nexus could be sniped easily. That should probably go down. He decides to go after the Colossus, now going after the Immortal, grabs both. Second Colossus is here. Zealots on the backside as well. Took out all the reinforcements, all the tanks. I did not see. I saw that glob of Zealots, and I thought they were going to go into the natural. They did not. They came from behind, and they just obliterated Clem's push, but only after it did kill an Immortal, a Colossus, and a Nexus. But then it loses almost every single unit on the retreat. If he had been able to escape with 4 Medivacs, 2 of which I think had units inside of it, I would say that was a gain for Clem. Although I'm actually not really sure about that. But as it is, it's definitely not. As it is, Clem definitely took too much damage. This is troublesome. Now Clem is 100% on that defensive posturing that I was talking about. His tanks have been deleted. Now he needs Vikings, but he also needs Medivacs. And you could technically build both, but the point is you're not getting to a high enough number very quickly. So, I think Clem's dead. Mentally, he probably already is. Sounds really brutal, but I think he is already admitting defeat, even though he's still microing. He knows how bad that was, and he is well aware of the pacing I just described. More than most. So, GG's. It's a small price to pay. I gave my my sister-in-law this really stupid thing from Japan. I just thought she'd find it funny, and she did. It's like a sexy lemon. They have these like weird little keychain things where it's like a really sexy body. It's like only wearing underwear, but then the head is like a deer or a lemon or something else, I guess. I thought she'd find it funny, and she did. But she said something. She did like a pun with it. She was like, "Lemon, ask you this." Anyway. I think in StarCraft 2 you can ask her to be ignited for that. I don't know. I mean, I don't think they should have asked us. I mean, I think getting feedback in general is always good. There is that. But I don't think we would have any say what happens to what they want to do. I know a lot of people are calling for the StarCraft content creators to be more collaborative, which I think is more important now. But I think it's always been something the StarCraft community has lacked compared to some other grassroots communities. We don't do a lot of collaborations. We hardly reach out to people outside of StarCraft's field, but we hardly reach out to each other in the first place. And now that we need some type of organization to help us with the tournaments, it would make more sense for us to talk to each other, and we are, but to actually get like a collective that has, you know, everyone is a part of, and everyone agrees on a certain set of rules and a certain set of like expectations, that's very difficult to do. I'll just open the floodgates for puns. So that game went about as expected. Clem is the one that has to change things up. But what worked once against Hero was doing like more 2-base all-ins. He doesn't seem to want to do that against Max Pax. I don't know why. I'm sure it maybe somewhat has to do with the fact that Max Pax almost always 3 gates. Whereas other Protoss might throw in a 2-gate more often. Or even might still 4-gate, actually, as an attempted all-in. Which, if that doesn't work, is far more of a blow to the Protoss. And then Clem probably wins those. But if you're facing someone who 3-gates, you know, giving them more units to apply pressure to you, but then also alternatively more units to just defend and keep map control and all the things that would matter if you were leading up to a 2-base, might make Clem more hesitant, but I don't think that's a big enough issue, because 3-gate would help against earlier attacks, not necessarily like a 2-base SCV pool, I think. You'd have to worry more about, like, do you have shield batteries? Do you have a surround? Do you have a run-by? Do you have an upgrade finish? Do you... whatever. You have 8 gateways instead of the 6. But it might just be, then, because MaxPax has just proven to be too good against 2-base all-ins. His play is too solid, it's too structured. Unlike maybe a hero who is obviously a very good Protoss, but might be a little unstructured. I don't know. But I just know that Clem doesn't try 2-base all-ins versus MaxPax. We are Dre TC. We have, you know, a schedule, so we don't run over each other's events, and we're free to talk to each other in that Discord, obviously, but no one really wants to. Well, right now, you know, there's a push from, for instance, the OSC guys, I think, to have everyone incorporate into the OSC system, but then would that mean we are all beholden to the OSC rules? We might not want to be, for whatever reason. Maybe someone has bad blood with the guys. Or maybe less dramatic, they want to be able to change the map pool. Or they don't want to have to work with a separate party. Like, whatever it is. That's a full wall right there. So no way the Heat Reaper Hellion can get in. Does cancel the gateway, I guess it was. So it is going to be 3 gates and a robo. Clem was able to find some probe damage after the attempt to break into the natural. Could find that again when MaxPax goes to get his 3rd. But he keeps his units alive anyway, but he also wants to check to see if there is a 3rd. And if he checked again, he would notice it. But there is a Banshee follow-up here, something that we see Beyond do a little more than most other Terrans, and that Clem has tried adding into his play versus Protoss. If it works, it can work brilliantly. If the Banshees are just something the Protoss doesn't even think about, they forget that it's a unit, and they just suddenly pop up 2 Banshees and 2 bases, all without shield batteries, that's a lot of dead probes. It's a huge distraction as well, so if they're leading up to a 2-base attack, that can add a little extra spice to it. It can work. But it has been a while since the Banshees really do a game-changing amounts of damage. There was one game where the Banshees were quite impressive. I didn't think they would be, and then I remember I was corrected. But I don't think that ended up with a Terran victory. They just made the game closer. Can't decide whether I'm depressed or excited. Well, I've already gone through the stages of grief, so I can't. I feel like I've already gone to the bottom of the barrel depression-wise for a lot of different reasons in the past 6 months. America. You know, so I don't have that moment right now where it's just like everything is up from here. Yeah. I would say you would still overall be sad. We're still going to miss a lot of things that we were used to in StarCraft. But try and look at what could be positive. And the one thing I'm looking at is that I think we will see more and more change-ups to force change in StarCraft 2 since Blizzard isn't doing it. So I think as time goes on, more players will arise to contest the top players. So we're going to have a mix-up of players. And it won't be for the best reason. It'll be because the top pro gamers can no longer afford to play 16 hours a day. But it will mean we'll get more names than just the 6 we always see. We're going to get very different maps because people are going to get bored and there's not going to be any balance changes possible. So we're just going to have to change up the maps like Brood War did. And so already we're seeing a lot of tournaments try and incorporate new maps, which is great. But I think we're just going to see crazier maps. and more maps. I think those could be fun. Thank you for the fine bitty booze. Gonna do the podcast soon. You know, I always think about getting. You mean like the talk show, right, for StarCraft? I always think about it, and then I'm like, I'm not sure who I really want to contact, and who has time, and who wants to. And I'm not a very good organizer, honestly. I hate reaching out to people. Stalkers are on the front, just waiting for this push. Clem has pulled the boys, by the way, so it is a 2-base all in. Let's see if MaxPax is invulnerable to these, or perhaps Clem bringing out the most aggressive thing he can think of will actually work to bring this series around. Scan ahead reveals just a single shield battery, a handful of charge lots, and an immortal. That's not incredible, but the zealots that would otherwise be there are harassing the mineral line, ensuring that this is an all-in. SCV's doing a great job tanking all that damage. Immortal got caught in the front, unable to be microed back. Tank does siege up. Probes could be sacrificed. Well, ideally you don't sacrifice the probes. The Nexus could be sacrificed for the greater good. If the probes are as well, that's still okay because Clem is going to be on maybe not even 1 base economy. We do have still a good number of Protoss units, but the Colossus very much necessary, starting to burn down those SCVs a little faster. The SCVs still do their job as far as tanking, but it's still easier with AoE. The SCVs actually pulled back. That's a very rare move. I don't know if I like it or not. But if Clem wasn't going to pull the trigger and continue to advance right then and there, then the SCVs were useless. Just walking around in the middle of the map not doing anything would have been useless for them. So, but if he was planning to continue attacking like this, then maybe the SCV should have stayed on the front lines. He is very close to getting that Colossus. No more Zealots coming in quite yet. 1 Colossus down. Second one does help. And we're out of a lot of medevac juice, but not all of it. The Zealots do once again go across the map. What am I not quite able to kill the Warp Prism? 8 probes go down. Those are kind of the ones that were saved initially. Their Nexus has to be canceled. It's definitely an odd game. Not enough Stalkers really chase after the medevacs, but MaxPax will try. Has to be wary of the Widow Mine plus what is left over of the bio. I mean, it's still relatively healthy, actually. The tank is also firing away. All the Zealots have been depleted, but there is just not a lot of bio left over. They were in the orange, and they will have to escape. Most of them do. 3 medevacs left alive, 1 full of units. Zealots cleaned up on the backside. Clem, having pulled those SCVs back and replaced some of them as well, is back up to certainly a 2-base economy, although he is running out of minerals. So is MaxPax. That's one thing that's guaranteed. Both of you running out of minerals on your initial 2 bases. No one is in a fantastic economic position. Their Nexus does come down from MaxPax. Obviously, Clem could just lift his main. That would make a very vulnerable 3rd base, but it's better than nothing. It actually looks like he's going to build a 3rd CC. That's... For how this game has ended up, I guess that makes sense, but it's kind of crazy to see an SCV pool return the SCVs and make a 3rd CC. That is a fearsome Protoss army. Not a lot of Zealots on the front line to tank, but 2 Colossus beaming down make that 1. A couple of Vikings were added. The medevac count had stayed fairly strong for the situation for a long time. So Clem made that choice to not continue producing medevacs, but rather to add in a handful of Vikings, and that did help right there. That did absolutely contribute to the Colossus' death. What am I drop while everything is panicky and all over the place? Kills 9 probes. That's not the worst. It's obviously not the best either, as they are both losing out on literal minerals to mine from. There's only a certain amount of probes that you need, but he does want more than 39. MaxPax wanted to do a lot more damage on that counterattack. He was hoping he still found an injured, medevac-less, and hopefully Viking-less army, because this game has been so scrappy. And if he had found no Vikings and a limited number of medevacs, then his 2 Colossus would have bullied that bio for a long time. Although the lack of Zealots is always going to make it a little more vulnerable than I'd like. But instead, he found plenty of bio, just enough healing, and those Vikings added in. And MaxPax's kind of counter, well, it failed. And now his defense on the 3rd is also going to fail by the looks of things. 2 base. Dedicated attack. Because he did end up pulling back his all-in. It has worked. MaxPax not as prepared as he would have liked for the very start of the game, or the start of the push. You know, his 3rd base ideally would have had... Well, more Zealots. I know he used Zealots to run by as well, but ideally you still have more Zealots on the defense as well. Maybe another shield battery or 2. That would have been a more ideal defense. But to muster that much cash is always difficult. He might not have noticed it was going to be an SCV pool until quite late. He was on top of the army with his stalkers, but maybe he didn't notice that the third CC wasn't being built, right? I'm not sure, but he's got to do what he can with the units that he has, which is a lot more than you'd expect, apparently. These are also better upgraded bio units. They've been for a while, I think. Max packs with some good targeting. Marauder-only armies are tanky as hell, and the Colossus feel kind of useless against them sometimes. But on the flip side, they don't deal a lot of damage to Zealots anyway. So sometimes Marauder versus Zealot, like, you actually get opportunities to focus fire on the Marauders, and it can look, you know, better for the Protoss than you would expect. But overall, pretty confident in Clem's victory here. Almost got a hell of an Artosis Pylon. Shield battery save was good. Max Pack's now trying to take advantage of the lack of defensive units. There was at least one drop on the side of the map, actually two, with the Widowmine drop as well. This time he did prepare for it, he did react to it. And the lack of units on the defense hasn't created a huge problem yet. But Max Pax needed that for sure. Oh, and he needs this for sure too. Yeah, he needed that moment where he was able to deflect the aggression and get his own aggression. And that's a tight walk right there. That's tightrope for sure. But he was able to find it. Now Clem almost entirely on the defensive. Widowmine drop still trying to go on, but only getting one probe right there, I believe. I think we have the mod back on. That is a big bio army. Not a whole lot of healing, and the Viking number is not impressive either, but that's just actually so much bio. I don't know about this Max Pax. It gets any type of concave, and again, better upgrades for the bio as well. Oh, the concave has come, and the SCVs have been pulled. The CC has been lifted. A couple of Zealots on the backside trying to help out, but we do have the Protoss army forced to retreat at least a little bit. Now, this is about wearing out the Terran army at this point. Clem needs to actually straight up kill the Protoss army. He can't do this. I'm going to pull everything and try and win right here. Just kidding, I can't do it and pull back because he doesn't have the medevac energy for it. That is what Max Pack is taking advantage of right now. More Zealots have been warped in. Two Colossus barely still alive. One finally goes down. Second one not healthy as well. But this could be enough. Zealot Stalker and Archon added in. The Marauders very injured from the earlier stim and pull. Only one medevac available. Vikings landing since the Colossus are all gone. Guardian Shield now a part of it. And this Warp Prism staying alive might be the kicker. Maybe the Vikings, we could try and take that out, but there is so much to focus on right now. Clem obviously just trying to hold on for dear life, maybe in a little bit of disbelief. I am a little bit. I mean, I understand how it went down. I still am a little bewildered. Max Pax was in such a tough spot. And his aggression in the face of adversity ends up being his best feature again. I mean, this is one of the things I think that he was good at years ago and is highlighted even more in the current meta is that he refuses just to stay it back at home. What people think Protoss will always do. Oh my god, he won. But there's a lot of reasons why Clem figured that he had time to go for a drop in the main and a Widowmine drop in the third. There's a lot of reasons why that made sense. But the only reason it doesn't is if the Protoss player is confident enough or has enough information to know that they can deflect the double drop and find the third base defenseless. If either one of those things is not correct on the Protoss' side, we get this kind of weird base trade scenario, and then who knows what happens. But then not only did he do that, he found one of the medevacs on the return. It's a very brutal position right now. It came back to the same exact problem that we see in all these other TVPs, even though it was more interesting with the two base all in. It still seemed to be the same problem. The medevac Viking problem, the stim and retreat problem, is what Max Pax is able to force again. Like, a lot of that game seemed like it would never happen. A lot of it just seemed like Max Pax would do what most of the Protoss would do in Turtle, but I guess he knows it's a goal at this point. I feel like maybe it wasn't in the past, but at this point, whether you're behind, ahead, even, you're desperate, or you're totally chill, your goal is to get Colossus and a decent number of units on that third base choke, and then run away from concaves. This is the goal. This is the abuse. And the Terrans are having a hell of a time figuring out what to do against it. No GG. I feel like the amount of no GGs from Clem has certainly risen in the last 6 months. I've never thought it was actually important. You know, people post like Reddit threads and they're like, I didn't realize Clem was so BM. He doesn't GG. I never thought that was a big deal. You make fun of it because it's funny when Parting made fun of it, but I don't actually think it makes anyone a bad guy. But you must admit there's something there. There might be a little frustration. So where does this leave us for the maps, the series? Max Pax waits in the finals. Spirit Hero. Spirit beats Solar, Bunny, and Cure. All best of ones, but still. And now he's trying to beat Hero over on NA. Hero is out of the game. Steadfast, or Spirit, seems to have left, so I'm guessing Hero won. I was correct. It's a way for people to feel superior, which I think is fine. The difference, I think, of many situations is context. Sometimes people seem to just forget that context matters. And in this case, the no GG thing, I think context is really important. If Clem started off his career not only not GGing, but also flipping the handshake away, scowling at his opponents, making enemies, being unpleasant, well, then you'd probably be a lot more ruthless. So you probably should be a lot more ruthless to it. But this is a kid who's been just nothing but a sweetheart, who's eager and excited to play StarCraft and affable and a lot of respect amongst the pro gamers at this point. Like, no one wants to make any enemies of the people that are going to be practice partners. And he's like, who cares? Who cares when he doesn't GG? Just watch a Stormgate video. Thank you. So obviously having a hard time for a while, but I think we'll be good now. I really think it is a drastic improvement. I do. I don't know if it's enough in two ways. I don't know if it's enough for me to want to play the game a lot. I am playing those first two missions. I do want to play the third mission. I can say that. I don't know if I'm going to play a bunch of multiplayer, though. Can't say about that. I also don't know if it's enough to actually keep them going for a while yet, because that's always been the main concern. They could end up with the best game in the whole freaking world somehow. But because the initial impressions have already been made, it'll be very difficult to convince people to give them enough money. So I don't know. My concern is that while the campaign is better, I think the co-op is going to be improved. I like the grittiness they added to it. It shows a potential, and that's always good. My concern are Celestials. And I don't mean that as in a purely complaining kind of... Sorry, Clem's playing Protoss. He's playing Protoss versus Protoss. So that distracted me. But anyways, the Stormgate thing, not because I think Celestials are like overpowered, which they were at one point, but it's not balance. It's just that I think that game design of Celestials is really bad. It does not instill a lot of faith in me that the multiplayer will be fun. Infernal mechanics as well, I think, have potentially very bad. It could get much worse if people actually did play a lot of Stormgate. I think the Infernal mechanic could be really bad for the balance of the game. It's like the design problem of late game Zerg on crack. Which is, while StarCraft 2 is generally considered very balanced, there are points that are difficult to balance around. And for instance, one of that is the Zerg late game. Being able to tech swap with as much larva and as many minerals and gas as they can get in some of these late game scenarios is a feature of something that was mostly meant for like early and mid game stuff. The macro mechanic that is larva inject. So I think Infernal's on the crack with that one. Yeah, unfortunately a lot of damage was done. I do hope they continue improving, and I'm gonna, support them in that effort without being inauthentic. I'm gonna call out when I think things are still messy or bad or need improvement, but yeah. Okay, so we got PvP. Now Clem has not played a lot of PvP. He must, as he practices Protoss on the ladder. And we know Protoss contaminate the ladder like Zerg usually did. But that is something very different from facing Hero, who he would not be laddering against, because there's no way Hero's playing on Europe ladder all that often. And it's very different, I think, from just being in a more competitive field. Plus, most guys, they use a barcode or some such. So there's not that knowledge of who you're facing and their tendencies, which in this mirror matchup I think is most important, maybe. It's very different. And I think Clem has already showcased how good he can be, damn it, when it comes to Protoss in general. PvP is a very different beast, and I think he has been rightfully hesitant to bring out his PvP. But it's a best of one. And considering how, frankly, stale TVP has gotten for Clem and for many other Terrans out there, he might say a roll of the dice is better than for certain bad card draw, And I would say even though his PvP should be worse than Hero, if they played 100 games, I think Hero would win 80, 20, whatever. One game, who the hell knows? No one knows. And that is kind of his advantage right now, Clem that is that Hero would not know what to expect from Clem's PvP. That is for certain. Is he a cheeser? Is he a macro player? Does he like BTs? Does he like Stargates? Does he open 8 Adepts? What is he doing? Right now we got 2 Adepts as an opener. It's a little bit of a scout. No possible harassment, unfortunately. Hero was all over it. I said no scout, but he did see the Nexus. Oh my god, he didn't. Well, I was talking more about getting into the main, but at the very least, he would have hoped to see the Nexus, and he didn't do that either. Hero was seriously all over that. Hero is getting a proxy pylon, so that might seem like a surprise, because, hey, you're getting a Nexus as well, right? But in PvP, there are a lot of stopping points for production, and you can be greedier and stop production, skip shield batteries, whatever. And that's what something like this is hoping to take advantage of. Hero is delaying possibly technology, possibly probe production, to to warp in an extra 2 sets of units, but he's hoping that it wins him the game. Very, very nearly does. It actually might straight up have won him the game. Oracle's not doing enough counter damage. Stasis Trap was good, but, you know, is that enough? Proxy Pylon is still up. Shield Battery was depowered. It is a very similar unit count until Hero's reinforcements show up. Clem's Oracle is coming back home. He needs something, anything to help out. He has lost only the probes he could lose so far, but he's losing more as I'm speaking. Shield Battery getting up and the recharge in the Oracle will be a good enough defense to say that the game will go on, but with Clem now down by 6 workers. Two Adepts being warped in to further harass that probe line. Hero knows what advantage he gave himself. And even though he, like I said, might have delayed his technology for it, clearly Clem had to delay his as well in the panicked response to the aggression. So Hero does not fall behind in any department. He is ahead in army, economy, technically technology. And now he's gotten more probes damage. His Clem's probe was not in position until it was too late, so 6 more probes go down. That is basically the nail in the coffin. I think we got a Hail Mary Oracle coming out here just to hopefully surprise Hero with a severe off timing. But shield batteries are here, so it's not like the pulsar beam is going to do the damage. The most he can hope for is a really good stasis trap. How is the number labeled tech measured? I think it's literally amount of resources put into tech buildings, but I have no idea. That's a guess. So, yeah, I think, you know, Cybernetics Core, Stargate, Twilight Council, not gateways, maybe, I don't know. Maybe also upgrades. The cost of upgrades is in there, too. Honestly, there are tabs that matter and tabs that don't matter. But for the stat nerds out there, all of them matter. So Clem finds himself still behind by now 7 workers. Hero's third base is 30, 40 seconds faster. Oh, he's still not put it down. Okay, so Hero's Nexus is like a minute faster. Blink is a bit faster for Hero. That remains even, the Blink technology. And everything else is favorable to Hero. I can't think of a way for Clem to come back. He could try and sneak a Dark Shrine, but he would have to hide it. And he does not have any Proxy Pylon out on the map, so that's not happening. The other thing he could do is try and build Gateway and produce, while Hero is the same thing as earlier on in the game. One person chooses to delay production of units for technology and economy, the other one doesn't. There is still that time that exists around the third base as well. I don't think Clem had a good enough economy to get there, though. So even though he is adding in that extra gateway faster, he does maybe warp in more consistently than his opponent. It still wasn't enough because he had been behind in economy for so much. And Hero is investing his resources not into relentless stalker warp-ins, but into these big, bad immortals that pretty much guarantee a defense. Offensively, they could maybe fall behind and be picked off and stuff, but defensively with a shield battery to their back, they're always going to win against the army that Clem has. Clem is trying his best to razzle-dazzle, get in the main, get in the natural. Maybe he could have tried to go after this immortal, cut the army down a little bit, but he did not find the golden opportunity he was looking for. And he really shouldn't. There are 2 observers from Hero. Hero added in that robo kind of quickly, actually. Like, he could have delayed it more as an option, but clearly for a purpose, right? He busted out 2 observers for full map vision, you know, as much as it matters. And then he also got those immortals, and again, defensively, they should just never die. That one, though. To be fair, that one did. Clem finally finding his moment, but now potentially surrounded. That is a fake immortal, to be fair, which he knows with the how fast it died, but wow. No, that was not a surround at all. Hero, not a big enough army to really get that surround, actually. So he was better off. Well, he was supposed to make sure the AI didn't work against him, but he didn't. Now the Warp Prism also is... Okay, hold on here. Hold on. Is Clem capable of the comeback? I didn't believe, but Hero, he's getting a little ring around the rosied. Distracted by an oracle is what happened with that war prism. It's not supposed to be happening. But there's a maybe. Clem's trying to get up to Templar Archives charge in a possibly very large Zealot army. No, he's gotten up to 6 gases. No, 5, actually. He does want Archons and Zealots. Maybe like 2 Archons? I mean, going for a lot of Zealots can be a game plan. There's benefits to a lot of Stalkers and benefits to a lot of Zealots. A lot of Stalkers, very microable. A lot of Zealots, surround potential is high if they get a surround. Their damage is high. And their run-by potential. Zealots are far easier units to run by with than they are to defend. The Immortals also are less effective against Zealots, so in a way they kind of counter them, I guess. But then you can't micro with the Zealots. When they choose to charge, they choose to charge, and that's it. You're done. So, yeah. Because he gets the cancel on the Nexus, and Clem is getting his own force, so that's going to be almost an entire Nexus ahead. He's down by 7 probes, though, and he's not really able to afford many more. He does, but I don't think he actually can. Yeah, that was a kill. 400 minerals down the drain. It's still not enough. It just goes to show how much damage he took in the early game. And even though he really was running around hero for a minute, and he did get a killed Nexus, it is so much later in the game that these things are less impactful. And Clem didn't exactly do something severely greedy behind it. If his 4th base is done, and he has 70 probes, and he was able to do the runaround thing and kill the Nexus, well, okay, great. Then he's done the appropriate, like, min-maxing, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But he couldn't do what he did while also getting that much economy. So now he's still feeling the repercussions from earlier. A couple Archons are helpful, but far less Immortals. These 2 Archons only tackling the Zealots with a shield battery behind them, they could do a lot. The shield battery is depowered and the Archons are not in position. That sucks. Yeah, Clem tried his best to come back here, but that's going to be GG. Hero is going to advance on. Clem is out of the tournaments. And that means that is going to be a Hero versus Max Packs finals. We'll see it now. Trying to be a responsible human being and use my standing desk more. Actually, what I wish I had a standing desk that went into a sitting, like a floor desk. Yeah, like a floor desk. Because you know, I visit Asia a lot, and while Korea's actually not very big on like places where you sit down on, you know, what do the kids say? Crisscross applesauce. There it is. Yeah. Korea's not as big as Japan. Japan is still like there's a lot of places where they ask you to do that. And I think there's something to trying to build up your strength and flexibility by sitting on the floor. So yeah, floor desk literally just goes almost down to the floor so that you can sit cross-legged on the floor and work. Haven't sat cross-legged in 20 years. Yeah, most people haven't, right? Last time you sat cross-legged for any extended amount of time is when you were, you know, using the parachute in PE class. Which some people might be totally unfamiliar with, and you guys missed out on a childhood. But that's the point, though. The only reason that we can't do it is because we stopped doing it. Whereas, you know, you go to all these, like, yogis and shit, and they'll talk a big game about how flexible they are. And you think initially, maybe you're thinking, like, these, like, stupid, elaborate poses where, like, their leg is behind their head. And you're like, well, I don't need to be that flexible. And you're right, you don't. But flexible as in you can do a squat without your heels touching the floor, that's actually really important flexibility. Being able to sit on the floor cross-legged is actually flexibility that helps you outside of sitting on the floor cross-legged. They got into this really quickly. So used to the delays. All right, everyone. We got ourselves another PvP. It is the finals this time. In the top right of Tokamak. Oh, it almost got me again. I almost said Tomahawk. That's what happened last time. We do have Max Packs. In the bottom left, it is Hero. They played once already today. Hero did get a little bopped, if I'm being honest. A little bit. This is now the finals, which means that because Max Packs bopped Hero earlier, Max Packs gets the advantage. If he wins his best of 3, he wins. If he loses, he gets the second best of 3 to play. Many of you are now familiar with this. I don't know if I have a lot of faith in Hero today. I generally have faith in Hero. Well, kind of. You know, if you're a Hero fan, you know the Hero experience. You want him to win, but your brain tells you there's a good chance there might be a throw in there. But anyway, I mean, as far as playing against the same guy who defeated you pretty soundly just 30 minutes ago, like, I don't have a lot of belief in that person winning. But it is PvP. There are a lot of different ways that Hero could play outside of those 2 games they recently did. And he's already doing that. He's already changed things up once again. He's gone for a 2 gateway opener. So it's not like without chance. Just, I think it's gonna be very difficult for Hero. Max Packs is a very stalwart defensive Protoss, but I was trying to think of something even better than that. Max Packs does what he does very well, and it's not gimmicky, so there's not many flaws in it. I can still sit on the floor cross-legged. That's the first check. Now try and stay on the floor cross-legged for, let's say, 10 minutes. And then try and get up, because, oof, boy. That's going to be a proxy Stargate from Hero. Max Pax knows that a pylon is missing. So he knows there's a proxy somewhere, but he has yet to find it. Max Pax Zealot does go to the most obvious proxy Stargate location, I would say. Right here, so it goes immediately to the main. Sometimes there's a chance it goes to the natural, actually. Or, you know, through the natural into the main. In this case, a little bit later of an Oracle is worth the fact that it was not scouted, so it is a little bit farther away. But that means that what's not scouted. In the grand scheme of things, if Max Pax could see the intention of a Nexus, he might deduce that it is an Oracle. He didn't really see the intention, though, and he didn't see anything else that really points to a Stargate, because he saw all Stalkers, too. Adepts can kind of be a hint, although it's not a fact. But Stalkers, no Nexus appearance, like the third pylon wasn't put down here. It could still be a one base all-in for all Max Pax knows, I think. Yeah, you know, yeah, that's why he's getting a Void Ray. Like, the worst case scenario is an all-in. The second worst case scenario is an Oracle that kills a bunch of probes. But, you know, you had to defend the first worst case scenario. And that, it's just a... I mean, I don't know what else you would do as a Protoss player, you know? He could have maybe opened up with a Sentry, but then that has its own problems as far as the opening goes when you're only on one gateway. What if Hero did a regular old proc... Like what he did versus Clem. What if he just proxied a pylon and just threw a couple units array? That would be very difficult to hold with only a Sentry. But you would get a scout. I mean, it's very tough. Max Pax tries to get revenge and immediately repelled. Almost loses the Oracle. Thankfully, he doesn't. Then we got 2 Oracles for Hero. Zipping and zapping, doing the damage. The Void Ray, hardly a fast responder. Max Pax is in some trouble. Oracles will have to be recalled to be saved. Fortunately, again, the Phoenix is not killing very fast, so that recall is totally safe.
Thank you for appeasing the overmind.
Smithling, thank you for the Prime sub. I'll take care of it. I'll cherish it. I'll put it in my collection. We just had Apollo up, but he left, so the cat cam's gone now. The cats are good. Blink is on the way for Hero. The only thing that Max Pax can do with a Void Ray is try this attack. It looks a little silly, but when the soccer count is still very low and there is no shield battery, the Void Ray has a possibility. It is immediately focused and a little late to being pulled back too. It does survive, but that's the extent. Once the Void Ray is injured, you know, it is a bit of a glass cannon. So it's different if the Stalkers can't get in range, if they shoot their first volley on a Stalker or the Zealot, for instance, and the Void Ray maybe gets 2 Stalkers killed, then there's some micro that got to go down there, but in this case, Max Pax, you know, he did what he could. There's almost nothing else this Void Ray would be doing anyway. In this case, it helped kill the Oracle, but a lot of times it won't. So not given a lot of opportunities in this game, Max Pax. Does get the Oracle, keeps his Phoenix alive, Void Ray's still alive too, now with the shield battery to help out, still, it's a good defensive tool if we're talking about a 2-base versus 2-base scenario. But Hero going to a 3rd base, Hero getting ahead on the economy, Hero eventually coming at Max Pax with, let's say, 25 Stalkers and 10 Zealots, the Void Ray doesn't matter. Max Pax's Oracle is still alive, although cornered currently, and I don't know if he wants to use the energy to recall it. I guess he doesn't really need Chronos right now. He doesn't need... Oh, no, he does. Sorry. He doesn't need Chronos on his economy right now, to be very specific. But he does need Chronos for his army and his technology. Going to go for a Resident Glaives composition. Thanks for the documentary videos. Oh, I'm glad you appreciate it. Yeah, people were very happy to see Fantasy interviewed. It makes me happy. Dark Templars are on the way as well. So Max Pax, maybe the idea here is that he's going to have a different type of attacking force, plus the surprise DT element that could just turn into an Archon or 2. And it sounds fairly obvious, like, yeah, that's the 2 things he's getting, ZombieGrub. Way to go. But I just mean it's more of like an all-in situation right now. He's kind of given himself 2 opportunities to win, but he knows that at least 1/2 of that opportunity is gone now. The opportunity to use the DTs as a surprise element, that's pretty much gone. Well, not exactly, but he knows there's detection. Then the other half was, again, using them into Archons. So he still has that. But it's not a game that he can macro. Hero is well aware that this was the most likely result, and his Stalkers scout the encroaching army, and they ring the bells. They tell everyone to get set up. And Hero has already been getting set up, I think. He's a little supply blocked. Not quite the perfect timing for Max Pax, as he will be able to reinforce very quickly, very soon after that supply block. Some units were caught by a couple of force fields. Recall was almost not worth it. I mean, there's a lot of Stalkers went down. That's a good start. Adepts will try and take out the Zealots. Lickety split. Even the Stasis Trap hoping to help out. Hero with a overall supply lead. Only even on army supply. And not that after this warp in. More Adepts are coming in. Max Pax so far finding a good start, but now we got the super slow... Oh, excuse me, Stalker versus Adept game. The 2 Immortals of Max Pax are extremely helpful against what is majority Stalkers at this point. DT is not going to be used as an Archon. I'm going to try and do that economic damage. Immortal is going to be jumped upon. He already lost 1. He lost a second there, so down to 1 Immortal for Max Pax, and he I mean, that's really what's doing the damage. The Adepts do not kill Stalkers very quickly at all. Nice pop in the stasis there from Hero for one of them, but the other one did collect a few more units. Might not matter. Hero has taken the army supply lead. Adepts did finally decide to shade, so that's their last-ditch effort. In case the battle isn't winning, they will shade to kill the economy. In this case, they're shading to kill the Robo. He did not kill every single observer, though. That would have been pretty sick if he had. But there is one observer left. And Max Pax has lost his entire army, so even if he does still, let's say like 20, 30 probes, it's still not enough. And Hero will win that game off the back of the proxy Stargate. Hear Loco talk about this game in his Warcraft 3 streams. Yeah, man, he's still playing it. He didn't get his bag and run. No, not that they got that much bag. I don't want to be rude to Loco. He's a great guy. I can't help it. You know, StarCraft people didn't do that well in the tournament. Not that I would have done any better. I would have known more of the names of things. I watched Loco and Tasteless both like them practicing Warcraft. And I know I knew more than them as far as the naming of units, but I've never studied Warcraft strategy competition. I played so much Warcraft. Custom games. So now we're on Maganatha. In the bottom right, it is Max Pax. In the top left, it is Hero. I mean, the Warcraft 3 invitational stuff has just been great. I mean, everything about it is pretty great, honestly. Maybe a little bit one of those, you know, nice, happy for you. You're a little envious, but it's such a good idea. It's really come together. I mean, so much of it does work because Grubby was able to build himself to be a very popular streamer. I mean, he's been averaging, I think, like 2K viewers for a while now. And if he was, you know, at like 100 or even 500, I'm not sure it'd be as successful. But, you know, he kind of got to be enough of a force as far as his Twitch and YouTube that collaborating with other people who were more popular than him was kind of worth their time, really. And then now it's just worked for everyone involved. But I mean to stop making workers, right? Yeah, people were really giving Viper a lot of chance to win because he was the best pro gamer out of all the gamers. But I've said it previously, but I never thought that. I thought the Dota guy would win. I think the Total War guy ended up winning, but I don't know about that one. But yeah, I think Warcraft... Dota players would enjoy the important aspects of Warcraft more than a StarCraft player or an Age of Empire player, which are just so drastically more macro-focused. Well, this could be the final game of the series. If it is, Hero wins 2-0. He's got another proxy pylon up and he's going to use it. Then we go to another best of 3. Because he's in the loser's bracket. Once again, Max Pax with the Scout, sees 2 gateways, sees no second pylon, knows that something is up. Might not be willing to believe that it's another proxy Stargate. Who does the same thing twice in a row? Honestly. And it's not. I do believe Hero changed his mind, though. I don't think he was going to go for a proxy Stargate. But even if he was, he has changed his mind. The probe stuck around for a very long time. Maybe to ensure that it didn't pass the scout of the opponent. That could be the reason, or it could be because he changed his mind. Usually if the probe is still there 10, 20 seconds after the pylon is complete, you know, or while it's building, really, it's because they're planning on actually using that probe or something. But this one stayed around, then pulled back. It did miss the scouting probe of Max Pax, so it didn't reveal the approximate location of the proxy pylon, because as soon as Max Pax's probe sees this probe go in this direction, Hero's probe, he's like, oh, it's somewhere on the left. Whereas right now, Max Pax has no idea. It could be the left, could be the right, could be up top, could be in the base somewhere hitting scout, like over here. Who knows? And because he doesn't know what he's up against. Now he sees a Nexus. He has a better idea. He's not being all in, right? And it looks like he did maybe gamble a little bit. He did go for an Oracle first. And then maybe started a second Oracle before he got that Nexus Scout. Which, if he was facing a proxy Robo, I'd be in a lot of trouble. But he's not, so the double Oracle is more of that kind of macro opener he was hoping for. The Nexus was not delayed because of any hesitation. Hero's Pylon play, after using it to proxy something last game, didn't really work out. It didn't instill the fear. Didn't mess up MaxPax's game plan as one would hope, I would think. The proxy pylon is always such a funny thing, because sometimes it's this game where the players are conditioned to just not even believe the proxy pylon, right? They're like, yeah, the pylon's missing, what else is new? No, you're not going to use it. I'm not going to use it. Moving on. And then there's times where the players have been conditioned to really be the most afraid of the missing second pylon. So they're like, oh my god, the second pylon's missing again. Oh my god, I don't know what's open. Oh god. Oh my god, I'm going to die. I'm going to fucking die. And then, I guess most of PvP is just 50-50 in those emotions. In this case, everything went well for MaxPax. He's got his 2 Oracles, he's got Blink on the way at the same time as his opponent. The Stalker number is the difference, but that Stalker number has a chance to try and tackle this third Nexus. If MaxPax, the third Nexus, is healthy, if he gets the shield battery up, if he starts obviously producing his own Stalkers, the timing is very close here for Hero to actually find advantage with the additional units. He does have a hallucination going across the map. Did it see the third Nexus? It did not. Saw a building number of Stalkers, but that's to be expected, really. There's a chance that MaxPax doesn't go into Blink after these Oracles. 2 probes went down for Hero. 3 total, actually. So Hero is behind by 4 workers. That plus significant delay on his Nexus. He did not realize MaxPax is already expanding. The hallucination missed it, and maybe if he had seen it, he would have gotten this Nexus faster. Or he would have tried to pressure MaxPax's Nexus. As it is, MaxPax is getting the advantage everywhere we look. Forge at the same time. +1 has not it started for MaxPax, and now he's going to be very focused on the micro, so that could be an advantage for Hero. Every second that ticks on by is definitely an advantage for Hero. Where is the upgrade? There it is. Let's see, what, 15 seconds? Probably not big enough to be taken advantage of. MaxPax is not only proxying a pylon, but also a gateway. He's pretty serious about this attack. You would expect, if you guessed which player was doing this, you might guess that it was Hero. But it is Hero who's on the defense. Using that Oracle high ground vision to get into the main base. Only a couple of Stalkers there to deny the Oracle. Not a mass amount of Stalkers. Good use of that remaining Stalker, though, to pop the stasis trap. Also kind of saves that Stalker's life, too. And now MaxPax in a far more awkward position than he was hoping. That was straight up ugly. Oh, he got even uglier. Oh! I think because it was a double level and the mineral patch was a lie, like, that definitely looked the Stalker should have been able to escape, and it didn't. That really screwed up MaxPax's plans. That was ugly. I mean, Stalker number kills not actually that different. I still think it should have been a little better for MaxPax, who is now forced to flee. His proxy gateway hardly helping. Wasn't all in, though. You know, proxy gateway sounds like it's a really big deal, and it's just not. He was grabbing a 4th base behind it, which I believe he will be able to defend. Hero also grabbing a 4th base. Taking a look at the map now that we're kind of deeper into it. There are gold bases around the Zelnaga. Rocks, I'm not... I guess they just... So they're destructible, collapsible, that's what the word is. They're collapsible, and I guess they collapse across this pathway. And then this one would as well. That would kill the rocks, I guess? Well, I'm not about to do collapsible, destructible rock math on stream. But anyway, the 4th base coming in the middle for Hero versus the, I would say, more typical 4th base for MaxPax is interesting. don't know Hero's thought process, but it might be something about being attacked from the right side. Finding the gateway, over there. And he tried to kill it. MaxPax wanted to save it. Maybe MaxPax shouldn't have saved it. MaxPax once again forced to flee after an awkward battle. Honestly, his mechanics, I think, are starting to take a hit. It would have been okay if he was later to +2, if he was later to charge, if he was doing as well as he believed he could on the offensive. But both of the last offenses have been pretty bad. So I think you have to break the collapsible tower to kill the Xel'Naga and then kill the rocks, and then you can take the gold. Or you build a Nexus way out here. But yeah, going back to my point, MaxPax's game plan, I think, has been... It's solid. Like, the ideas are all there, and with his typical control, I would never have predicted things to go so poorly for MaxPax. They did go fairly poorly, but not game-ending poorly, because he at least got that macro. He got that 4th base up. He's faster than the 5th. But otherwise, I think his mechanics have actually taken a hit during all this failed Blink micro attempts. Because that +2 is really late. And, you know, it might be because he was desperate to rebuild the soccer count, so he didn't have the gas. And that's fine. That's not mechanics. That's just tough decisions. But whatever it is, he's fallen behind on the upgrade. He's fallen behind on technology. But it's a little more complicated than that. Disruptors are on the way for Hero. That's why he doesn't have as much, I think, of a soccer lead as maybe he could have had he just totally invested into charge soccer. But disruptors can be good. Can. Like, per minute? I think so. Stalker count not favoring MaxPax, despite him not going for disruptors. MaxPax did get to a much higher worker count, which I think I like. Well, I really like with the way the game has gotten to composition-wise. Recall is going to have to be used. We got Zealots in the 4th base, now in the natural, possibly into the main. Stalkers reinforcing there as well. This draws MaxPax back, though, and that is really the problem here. MaxPax didn't take that much damage with the Warp Prism harassment, but he had to lose all that map control. The higher probe count for the guy who is not going technology heavy makes a lot of sense, because he's got to be on the offensive. He's got to be taking subpar fights a lot of the time against disruptors, cost-inefficient fights, and then rebuilding. But it gets a lot more difficult to do that when you're no longer the one with map control, especially if you're going to be cornered in a choke. Now, MaxPax does avoid that scenario when he comes in with a bit more of a concave, two-pronged attack, but he's not the one that's controlling the map, and he could still be taking very cost-inefficient battles if the disruptors finally start hitting. Stalkers forced to blink away into a stasis trap does help against the Zealots. More army, I think, just chilling over there because it thinks it's going to be a run-by. Little focus on the harassment, too. MaxPax's Warp Prism just chilling. Just been there for like a full minute. Got some warp-ins, finally. Not enough to kill the cannon, though, so that's... They went after a pylon, now they went after Salmon X-Core. I do hope that Hero remembers to rebuild that. Charge lots and disruptors kind of go against each other. So you do want to be able to rebuild the Stalkers. Okay, he is. Also, a ton more pylons as he was supply blocked. MaxPax, with literally what looked like 2 units, 3 including the Warp Prism, has made Hero totally give up his position on the offensive. Now he's back in control. He also does have his own disruptors on the way, but it is 1-7. Five bases to 4. MaxPax not going to have an army lead as they both max out thanks to the worker count. Now 17 above his opponent. Damn. But he will hopefully play this like a Zerg, where he will take fights, lose it a little bit, rebuild, and eventually win. He is trying to take care of the disruptor count. It's not quite working, though. It's up to 9. Oh, my God. Warp Prism did not fully leave. It just tucked itself into a corner, and Hero does not have the defenses necessary to stop the harassment. Forced to basically all in on the offensive, chasing after this army. MaxPax with a very limited amount of room to micro. As soon as he runs away, he loses the Nexus. But he does have to run away, but oh no. No! Oh my god, the DTs. Where is the observer? Hero has 2 observers. They were pulled back to handle the harassment. Oh my god. This is how it ends. Oh. That is so unfortunate. Hero does manage to keep most of his disruptors alive. Finally takes care of the War Prism. But oh my, he brought both of his observers back and then put one... I don't know what happened. Like, he put one in observer mode, and then the other one maybe wasn't hotkeyed or something. I don't know, but it... Ay. Very unfortunate. I can almost guarantee he figured he had an observer with his army. Like, that's why you get 2, right? One's at home, one's on the offense. But, that just gave MaxPax such a way back into this game. He was in a lot of trouble. He was without room to maneuver. He could not save his Nexus without that room to maneuver. The army was just approaching him before he could reinforce like he needs to. Like, there was a golden moment for Hero. Denied thanks to a couple of DTs. Which could happen again, by the way. Unless I'm blind. Is there... Oh my god! Oh! That's it. He's done. I can't believe that happened. That was the best disruptors ever. Well, I was focusing on the lack of observer because of DTs, but it was actually still the most important point there, probably. If Hero had an observer, maybe it could have seen a little farther ahead. Gotten some high ground vision and seen all those disruptors. That's it, man. Hero can't recover from that. He's got +1 armor, though. He's got this. He never got to a 5th base, whereas MaxPax has been on 5 this entire time. The Nexus looked like it was going to be a goner, and it just remains totally healthy because the recall had to happen. 6th base on the way for MaxPax 2. It's an ability. So the Disruptor, you know, it has a cooldown after it shoots its Disruptor shot. But it stays alive, like you'll... So if you have like 6 Disruptors and you throw 1 Disruptor attack out at a time, you theoretically have non-stop Disruptor attacks. Purification notice. There's no helping you if you just aren't paying attention. And you get popped by disruptors. It feels like it's been so long since I've seen disruptors. You know, in general, in any matchup. PvZs don't happen that often on these weeklies. PvPs don't get far enough to disruptors. And even if it gets like a far PvP, like a late game PvP, a lot of Protoss players don't go disruptors right now. So like, I forgot that was a possibility. And it's like the game that we finally see disruptors on disruptors, and you just get the biggest disruptor explosion possible. Good stuff. That's going on the highlights. It's going on the shorts. All right, we got ourselves the final, possibly, game of the day. If MaxPax wins this, he wins. If Hero wins this, we get another best of 3. We're on a new map, top right of Killer's Mile, which I know they did on purpose, so that we would accidentally say killer smile. It is max packs. And in the bottom left, it is hero. Seems like a very dreary map, doesn't it? Tons of space in the main. Decent amount of blink and reaper opportunity there, too. Ditto over on the right side. It's kind of scary. Natural is a bit more interesting. You do not have a fair wall off for Protoss players. How are you going to wall this off? You don't, sucker. I'm pretty sure it's worse than Abyssal Reef. Abyssal Reef, you can put pylon, gateway. Well, I mean, maybe it's kind of the same at the end of the day. But the point is, you're not going to get a wall. Not that that's incredibly important in PvP. It can be a factor of Max Pax's defense, but only if Hero has been doing a lot of one base all-ins against him, which he hasn't. So I don't think the wall will be a problem here. It is still obviously 2 ways into your natural, which is a little less defended. Then your third base is very wide open. So this definitely looks like a map that's not trying to do anything really fancy, but what it is trying to do is go back to some older maps. To some of the maps where you weren't guaranteed the bases because of the map design. You know, if a map maker intentionally puts a choke on a ramp in a natural, they're telling you it's even safer to take a natural. If they give you a third that's directed only one way from your natural, and one pathway, and the next one is like way far away or just like way too much for the aggressor to get to, they're like, you get that third. Congratulations. But the more that you add space, the more that you add avenues, the more you're saying you don't get these bases easy. I think it's what they're going for. Max Pax does block out Hero's expansion. Hero was absolutely intending to go for an expansion. He's got 1 gateway into a Stargate that is much faster than Max Pax's. Max Pax, though, he got the Nexus. So that's a pretty good trade-off. Phoenix versus Phoenix? Are you sure about that, Hero? I know he got the faster Phoenix, but Defender's Advantage will compensate for this. Well, that's a maneuver. Hero plays the Zerg and takes his third as his natural. And this third is already so wide open. I don't like this for Hero. No, sir. He's playing Phoenix versus Phoenix against Max Pax, which already is a bad time. The Nexus delay was quite a bit, and now he's got to take a more vulnerable third base. Although, it is Phoenix versus Phoenix, so I guess it's kind of weird. It's not the same type of vulnerability. Oh, the addition of the Adepts is kind of cute here. So he didn't stop producing from his gateway. He used... I mean, basically the delay on the Nexus would have accumulated minerals and gas in his bank, right? So I guess that's what he did, and then he just kept on building Adepts before finally stopping. That doesn't mean that his Phoenix count was hit. It means that his Nexus probably timing was hit, but it was already hit because of the proxy pylon. So the idea was good. The idea was there. Coming with the Adepts and the Phoenix. The Phoenix of Max Pax have a tough decision. You know, do they lift the Adepts and save the probes, or do they worry about the air battle? And it looks like what happened was that Max Pax did lose 5 probes, but he won the air battle, and he had already gathered such a probe lead that he still is ahead by 2. You know, in summary, Hero did not get what he wanted from that. He does have a faster second Stargate, though. He does have a faster second Stargate. There were probes killed. There were maybe lost mining. And the build order that can look more perfect from Max Pax, well, it was thrown off. So he does get to the later Stargate. It's still such a small difference that I'm not saying anyone is in an incredible lead. It's a good start for Hero. Very good start for Hero. Very, very good start for Hero. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Why are his Phoenix faster? What's going on here? That is very problematic. Losing 1 right off the bat and then being able to escape is fine, I think. But losing 3? And Max Pax did not get any Phoenix in turn. He might have lost this. Probe's forced to pull away from just a minor aggression. Max Pax is in so much trouble. He's now behind by 3 workers. The lost mining time really starting to accumulate. Forced to lift the Zealot, but then having to pay attention to the air battle that he is losing currently. Like, how does he make up for this? I don't know. Phoenix Unit is cool. You do not use it in all matchups. I mean, you technically can. There are Phoenix compositions versus Terran, as well as versus Zerg. But it's not what you do anymore. And Phoenix versus Phoenix in PvP doesn't happen that often as well. This game has really turned around. Max Pax got that block Nexus. He won. He did very well against the initial aggression. But then just letting his army, his Phoenix army, stay on the front lines, spread out as it was, allowed Hero to snipe the first one, snipe the second one, and then catch the third one before it could retreat. And losing 3 Phoenix for none is just not excusable. That's going to be it for this best of 3. Hero forces the second best of 3. GG's. Any hints for your next interview candidate? Oh, well, all the interviews are already done, so I can just tell you. The next one that's going up, I think, is Wardy's. Or wait, was Wardy's already up? I don't remember. Hold on. The next one that's going up is Chicken Man, I think. You got Chicken Man. There are a couple of Korean interviews I still need to do, though. It's just that they take so much longer. So as far as the interviews I have not uploaded, MC, TY, Roddy, Chicken Man, Mana, Drogo. Yeah. It's the final best of 3. Whoever wins this wins the tournament. In the top right of Torches, it is the blue Protoss Max Packs. And in the bottom right, it is the red Protoss Hero. A lot of pickups happening now that EWC has been announced with StarCraft 2. We had Classic picked up by Virtus Pro. Which is always nice. And then Zound is picked up by Vitality, and Hero is picked up by Twisted Minds, I think? And a couple others. Shin was picked up by someone else. Solar was picked up by Falcons. A lot of things going on. So, be much easier to remember if Hero used his clan cloud. But yeah, I think he did join a new team for EWC. And SOS is looking for a team. He's not made much of a splash in StarCraft, well, for months at this point, if not years. His return from the military, I think, had a lot of people excited, but then it didn't really happen. Like, nothing really happened. That I can remember, anyway. And so it's always nice to see SOS, but I do wonder if they'll be able to be picked up. As obviously no one except Clem is guaranteed to EWC as of right now. We still have all the qualifiers to do, so these are just hopes. Picking up, top 16 players in StarCraft is a pretty good guess. We're pretty stable at this point as to who's top 16. And SOS, unfortunately, isn't a part of that, but he's always a good wild card to throw in. So PvP here on a new map, but one we did see a couple weeks ago, so not new. It is a map that has a natural ramp. It is a gigantic map in terms of the space around your main, to your natural, around your natural, and to the third. Like, it looks like I'm zoomed in almost. With how, zoomed in more. With how wide apart these bases are. But it's not. So the natural ramp is truly the natural ramp. There's no way to get in unless you mine out these minerals. So Max Packs will naturally take advantage of that. Hero, not going to do the same thing, although the map calls for it more than many others, but he is still going for that gateway expand. Stargate versus Stargate, both around the same time. Both of them delayed each other's nexuses around the same time. We do have a slight difference of Stargate positioning. I don't think it's going to matter, but it could. And Phoenix versus Phoenix. Well, each player has now won a Phoenix game. So I guess neither one would be deterred. Even though Max Pax just lost the Phoenix game, I still put my bet on him more than Hero. Hero was in the worst position for a bit in the last game. And his attack with the Adept Phoenix did not get him back into the game. It was the aggression of Max Pax that led to some very poor micro. He just was not prepared for the battle. Hero was able to get all of his Phoenix to fire on one Phoenix of Max Pax that was kind of hanging over to the side, meaning that Max Pax didn't get the same volley in turn. And that's all it can really take. But the fact that he just continued not to get any volleys, he just continued bleeding off Phoenix, is not supposed to happen. And it probably will not happen again in that more obvious manner. But it is definitely Phoenix versus Phoenix, Stargate versus Stargate. Hero didn't have his Nexus block, so he didn't feel the need to produce all those Adepts, so we're not getting that type of attack. It is just literally both of them producing probes in Phoenix and maximizing their build as much as possible. And the last time this type of game happened, it did end up going very solidly in Max Pax's way. Yeah, you're gonna think Phoenix just like always what they do in PvP. And to be fair, it does happen more often. Basically, Max Pax set the trend here, and for years people tried to kill Max Pax, who always expanded. But eventually, Max Pax just got too good defending one base attacks. So you gotta play the natural expansion game too. And you don't have to go Phoenix when you 1-gate expand. It is the safest thing to do. Safest slash highest reward, I suppose. But then, because you both figure the same thing, that's what you both do it, so. But it's more common. It's still not supposed to be like this common, but it's happening so much as Hero recognizes he can't always trick max packs, and he also has to go for the same thing and then just hope the micro battle works out for him. It's all just very... It's very same. Very same. And it does kind of make me wish that there was more... I said this before the last best 3 started. It just make me wish there was more of those one base all-ins. Like, max packs as the defender and someone else as the aggressor was a wonderful little dynamic for a long time. But since it seems like the tides have... I think the tides have turned. It's become more and more favorable to max packs. The more people just try and do what he does and do it better. And that, you know, maybe makes it a little bit more of a stale matchup. Fleet Beacon does come down faster for max packs. Third Nexus around the same time. No one was successfully able to block the Nexus with the Pylon. One of the biggest weaknesses of Phoenix is that they cannot lift or kill buildings. So if you do get a Pylon block, it's so annoying. You gotta like pull probes to kill it or produce one Zealot out of this regular gateway. It's silly. That didn't happen. What does happen is that people put down scouting pylons because there's nothing they can do about it. You can produce a Zealot, which Hero does, and it is a choice, but Phoenix are very mobile, and they do kill Zealots very quickly, so the Zealot might be able to kill some of the closer pylons, like this one, maybe, but it's not going to be able to run across and, you know, run around and kill all the pylons that Max Packs could set up. Max Packs did lose the last best of 3, and he lost the Phoenix game there. But he's winning this one. And in general, Max Packs wins PvP, I would say. I mean, he definitely won this one. This was no contest. Holy shit. I don't know when Max Packs got ahead by 5 Phoenix. I assumed everything was hunky-dory, honestly. But I checked the units tab right before that went south, and somehow he had gotten ahead by 5 Phoenix. When Phoenix fight, the game is decided rather quickly. Most of the time. It's just such a drastic snowball effect. Sometimes you get a game that, you know, they lose by 1 Phoenix and it's not game over. Or they lose maybe by 3 Phoenix and it's not game over. That's the most I've seen. That's... Usually even losing by 3 Phoenix would lose you the entire game. Yeah, Phoenix can fight while moving. That's their special ability. And helps that snowball effect. That's a new one for me. In the top left of the grid, it is Max Packs. And on the top right, it is Hero. Hero now in his last life. Yes, very similar to Muta Wars, honestly, in StarCraft 2 and in StarCraft 1. Both of those, if you do go Mutas in StarCraft 2, it's very similar to StarCraft 1. Composition-wise, anyway. It's not as decisive. I watch an okay amount of Brood War. And StarCraft 2 Muta vs. Muta doesn't happen very often anyway right now. We directly nerfed Mutas, basically, in that matchup. And when it does happen, it is Mutaling. But usually they do get to 4, 5, 6 bases, where in Brood War that doesn't happen. But the same thing when it comes to the battles. When Mutas take on Mutas, if they win by 1 or 2, they win. It snowballs. It's exponential. And there's not many other units you have to suddenly change things up. Sometimes a good old Ling run by can really make or break the comeback, but yeah, the Muta War, if you're totally addicted on the Mutas, makes or break it by one battle going poorly. Same with Phoenix. Absolutely same. Except Mutas can actually shoot down, so there's... Like, that's even a little more dynamic because Mutas have the option of maybe taking on a Queen. Maybe trying to kill a spore before the mutas show up. Maybe try and kill a tech building. There's like a little bit more to it in Phoenix vs. Phoenix, which is just literally they cannot do anything about ground stuff. Buildings, I should say. And there's no reason to produce any ground units. So it's just all about the Phoenix War. The cat hair on the mic triggers you. I hope it does. Phoenix vs. Phoenix, the PvP meta. I don't think so. It's... You could maybe say it's a meta versus max packs, but it's really only because max packs forces you into it. The other options outside of playing the same game of max packs, one gate expand into Phoenix, is to 2-gate, like Hero's doing, all in on one base, which max packs has gotten very good at defending, or 2-gate expand, which just puts you behind in the expansion. But you could get like blink technology, for instance, and try and control the map. But you're trying to find the weakness in Max Pax's play, and he's just shored up so many of his weaknesses that it's really not there. So you play the same game as him. But you watch anyone else outside of Max Pax in PvP, and it's a lot of one base, all lanes, a lot of ground, micro, different openings for sure. Mostly same composition like Blink versus Blink, but that is much better than Phoenix versus Phoenix. So Hero went for 2 Gateway as an opener, so his Nexus is behind, but he's doing something that's actually quite surprising. He is still going for his own Phoenix versus Phoenix battle. So Hero, you know, obviously he knows what his opponent's doing, because Max Pax is the same thing all the time anyway. But Max Pax doesn't actually know that his opponent has dedicated to a second Stargate this fast. So the last thing he saw was the Phoenix. He sees a Phoenix, but that could be... This Hero did this before. Hero built a Stargate and went a Phoenix to deflect Max Pax's, remember? But he didn't go Phoenix. This is going Phoenix. And Max Pax doesn't know that's what's happening. So he might not he might not go for his own second Stargate. He's going to go for Twilight Council thinking that's what Hero's doing as well. Then he falls behind in the Phoenix count while not having any amount of ground units because he's also gone for 1 Gateway. That is the trick here. Hero has to show his cards a little faster than maybe he would have liked. I'm not sure if that was the moment to reveal. Because even though Max Pax is still only sending over units on 1 Gateway, they are enough units to contribute. And oh my god, this Oracle just killed 11 probes behind it. Well, Hero had to show his Phoenix, but it maybe should have just been to deny that Oracle. Well, this plan did not work. Hero's lost too many probes. Max Pax almost certainly was surprised by the number of Phoenix. But then maybe this is the reason you don't go for this number of Phoenix. Complete dedication to the Phoenix when the other guy does actually add in some ground units. It sucks for a time, right? Then the Phoenix number just beats out the ground units. But to add that Oracle in while the Phoenix were distracted, that was the real pepper. That was the chili. You asked for totally non-spicy kimchi jjigae, and they were like, no problem, they'll be white. White as you are. And you're like, thanks. And then they just fucking put a jalapeno in there. And you're like, well, what the fuck? That was the Oracle. Like, why? Hero does have the moment where he has the Phoenix superiority and the soccer count's not very high. He's going to try and use it to keep that soccer count low while he replenishes his probe count. But my god, that was a lot of probes that were killed. And now we got a depth pressure that's going to force the Phoenix back or cause a lot more probe damage. Yeah, Hero might have forced the second best of 3, but Max Pax is not going to give him another inch. Is he? Maybe he is, actually. I don't know. They're both clobbering each other's economies. The Hero started off in a much worse position. Phoenix also are energy based. They don't have an unlimited amount of lifts, graviton beams. So the Stalkers eventually are going to stop wiggling in the air. Third Nexus also complete for max packs, allowing him to replace those probes much quicker. And Hero's not tapping out because it is his last game. What an odd robo position. Yeah, GG's. GG's. Very quick final best of 3. Max Packs takes another one. He is the Monday Night Weekly guy. Yeah, it spirals very fast. Jesus, I don't know if you can hear my cat. I don't know what he's doing. Why are you yelling? What is up? You're playing with Wicket and she's bullying you. 17-pound cat is crying about being bullied by an 8-pound cat. Our robo placement was just I'm staying in the game. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Okay, put it down. Oh, crap. I'm not staying in the game. This is stupid. I don't play much StarCraft anymore. But I'm a Terran main. Terran Protoss. Do I have a single dimple? I feel like my this is going to sound weird, but I feel like my mouth has moved enough that you could tell that I do, but I don't. I've never gotten that question. Not posting complaints about the 8 phone one in the forums. Not yet. Once cats get opposable thumbs, though. You did miss the games. The games are over. Max Packs wins yet another Monday Night Weekly. And that will be it for me, guys. Thanks for watching the stream. There were some fun games in here. I will be back on Wednesday for another stream of some other game, I suppose. And the VODs will be up on my YouTube. So, thank you. Bye. Oh, I'll leave you with the cat.